It's time for Twit. What a panel we have today. Alex Wilhelm, Father Robert Ballecer, and Iain Thomson. Iain and Father Robert are back from DEF CON. We'll get all the DEF CON news. We'll talk about financial matters like the Sprint T-Mobile merger with Alex Wilhelm. He also has a take on the WeWork IPO chicanery and Apple Card and what not to do with it. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 733, recorded Sunday, August 25th, 2019. Fake Moos. This Week in Tech is brought to you by LegalZoom. Check out LegalZoom's last will and living trust estate plans now during National Make-A-Will Month. Visit LegalZoom.com and enter TWIT at checkout for special savings. And by Roman. Skip the waiting room and awkward face-to-face. Get ED medication conveniently delivered to your door in discreet, unmarked packaging. For a free online visit, go to getroman.com/twit. And by ZipRecruiter. Hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple and smart. That place is ZipRecruiter, where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. Try it free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. And by CashFly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with CashFly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cashfly.com. It's time for Twit, This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news with the best pundits we could find lying around. This show, I think it seems like it's going to be a joke, like a priest, a Scotsman, and a financial reporter walked into a bar. Financial reporter being the editor-in-chief at Crunch News, Mr. Alex.
Crunch Base News.
Crunch Base News.
Gently.
Sorry, add the base.
It's good to be back.
Just don't call it Velcro. Alex Wilhelm. Good to have you.
Yeah, it's a treat.
I'm now Mr. Alex Wilhelm.
Yes, I am now.
You're a married man.
I am a married man.
Is that how that works?
Well, I mean, so when we got married, I wanted us to be announced as Dr. Elizabeth and Alex Wagner or something like that to flip the gender thing. But she wouldn't let me do it.
You should take her name.
I offered to. She said no.
Actually, your name came up the other day in a New York Times crossword puzzle.
Oh, really?
The Wilhelm Scream.
Classic, yeah.
Iain Thomson's also here. Great to have Iain. He is at the register.co.uk. He's our, of course, news editor there. Hello, Iain.
Indeed. Good to be here.
You're the Scotsman, the titular Scotsman.
Yes, although, to be honest, I sound about as Scottish as the Duke of Edinburgh, but yes, it's...
what happened to your... Why don't you sound Scottish, lad?
My dad married a Sassenach and moved down south, so I was raised in the UK.
You should be...
A Sassenach, an English person.
Sassenach. That's what they call them. They're from the Sassenach land. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is the priest, Mr. Father, the very right Reverend Father Robert Ballecer, digital Jesuit, on loan from God.
I'm glad that you cleared up the best that we could find lying around. That's what I was doing.
He was lying around. I said, hey, Robert, you want to do a show? Great to have all three of you. Actually, you and Iain were both at DEF CON last week. Was that fun? Show us your badge. You have the badge.
Yeah. So
every year, this is a big deal. The DEF CON badge is designed by hackers to do something clever. Wow. Is it a piece of marble?
Yeah.
That's quartz.
Yeah.
Quartz?
It's a piece of
So
shape.
it is an electronic badge in the back.
It always is every year.
Powered by a 6-core ARM processor that actually has some significant wireless communications capabilities.
And there's different colors for different folk, right?
So this is press, which
is green.
Press is green. Reds were the goons. Dark Jansen
Goons would be from the law enforcement.
Yeah,
FBI.
Basically.
Well, no, that's
no.
the guys
Goons
who
are
run
internal
the
security. They run the show.
Oh, they're the internal goons.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there an FBI color?
No, sadly they've stopped doing Stop the Fed.
They did.
That was always part of the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
Spot the Fed.
Well, the problem with that is I could always point to Cheebert and say, well, he was a Fed.
Are Feds not allowed to DEF CON?
No, Feds are invited.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Fine.
Yeah,
But they have to be open about it.
Right.
So
you can't hide.
That's why media people are told, register for a media badge.
Right,
Yeah.
that's
Because
why you
if
have
you try to
training.
do media work with a regular human badge, they will kick you out.
Oh, have you seen the video of them doing that? That's brilliant. An NBC, I think it was an NBC reporter, tried to get in. She applied for an ordinary person's badge, and they said, "Look, we know you're press." And she said, "No, I'm fine. I'm just coming as an ordinary person." And then started going around people just like, "So you can hack websites, eh? Would you be interested in doing it for money?" And
Did you say that closer to my purse?
Yeah,
It was
and
literally that bad.
During the opening keynote, they said, "Well, we used to do Spot the Fed, but now we're going to do Spot the Undercover Journalist," and spotlights it down on a big face on the screen, and she just rushed out of there, surrounded
Oh my
by
God.
surrounded by people with cameras going, "Don't like being on camera now, do you?"
Hackers
They
can be
offered her.
so
They
mean.
said, "Come with us. We will register you as press. You will
Yeah.
go back in with the correct credentials." And she didn't want to do it.
So, what other colors? So green.
Green, black, white, purple.
Who's white?
Humans.
Humans.
Those are the humans.
So if you're just like a normal attendee, you're a
Yeah.
human.
So there's human badges and there's inhuman badges.
Now,
Yeah.
why is there wiring in here? What can I do with this?
Well, if you go to another person with any other badge and you tap the surfaces, the quartz surfaces, they will actually synchronize data back and forth between the badges.
Is that secure?
No.
But so what if somebody hacks your badge? So are you getting their contact information?
No. So this was part of the game.
Yeah, basically, you've got to get everyone's badge.
It's like
and then
Pokemon.
and it's like you get sort of more and more code with everyone's badge, and then the winner is the person who gets everyone's thing, and then unlocks an Easter egg within the badge.
Yeah, honestly, DEF CON is sounding more like an amusement park more
It
and
really
more.
is. No,
Oh, it is.
It's summer camp for
Hacker
hackers.
Summer Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is its actual stated purpose aside from being? Because I only hear stories like this from the event.
It's a really good way to meet people.
Right.
You know, I mean,
But there are presentations, right?
yeah.
And
Oh, no.
it's-
I mean, there's presentations. There's like 50 different villages going from everything from aeronautical hacking to election hacking to... I mean,
All the
there's
big
even-
hits, the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a kids camp, which unfortunately I couldn't get into because you have to have a kid to go in there, and people get really arsy if you ask if you can borrow their 10-year-old for half an hour.
Yeah. So what are they
That's a
doing in
risky
kids
joke.
You
camp?
think it's
Show.
bad if you ask that?
Oh yeah.
That's not happening.
This is going to be a long 2 hours.
I got to enjoy this show, right?
I'm going to see if I have a job
I didn't even
tomorrow.
think of that. What are the kids doing?
Teaching them how to hack. And kids can take part in the Capture the Flag competitions and the online gaming competitions.
Right. Wow.
You haven't seen a look of joy on a 7-year-old's face and when they've just blown someone's head off in a multiplayer
In a way,
game.
this
Well,
shows
like
you
the lockpicking village.
the whole community is aged. They're
Yes.
married, like Alex, and they're having kids. So now you have to have kids camp.
If you went to DEF CON this year, you saw everyone from the stereotypical, like, old school hacker who probably spoke something too much back in the day, and you had the kids who were learning it for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of awesome. There's a lot of people who are bemoaning the loss of the old DEF CON because the show now is huge. It is enormous.
30,000 people this
It didn't
year.
used to be like that. The first DEF CON I went to, you could fit all of us into a ballroom. And
wow.
now not even close. But that's just growing up, right? I mean, the thing that we used to do, everyone does now.
Yeah. It's like when I watch esports now, I get really kind of bitter about it because I used to have to work really hard to go find like Korean language VODs on YouTube in my parents' office. And now everyone's like, well, we've got Twitch or Mixer or whatever. And I'm like, I had to work for this.
Yeah, in those days.
But fundamentally, I'm happy that it's more accessible and bigger and it's more inclusive,
I do miss LAN parties, but I don't miss
I do
actually
too.
setting them up.
LAN parties are great, but don't you have LAN parties today?
I haven't heard of one.
Isn't that what esports kind of is?
Esports, yeah, but most people play on online ladders and kind of like on
Yeah,
the
I
PS4
guess
home.
you're
It's
right.
not quite as community based as it used to
A
be.
LAN party was different because you're all in the same room, a
You carried
giant
a
room, perhaps,
big
and you could,
beige box
and
into
you
your
could yell
friend's
at
house.
people. And,
Yeah.
it was really
DEF
fun.
CON has a version of that. It's Hacker Capture the Flag. So they use teams playing Team Fortress 2, which is it's a classic, and you can
Great-
mod it
great
any way you
game.
want it. But that's only half the points. The other half of the points comes from those same players hacking the other team. So you can like deny them various
It
services.
actually sounds really,
And
really
that's
fun.
like, okay, I enjoy that. That's actually how it works in the real world. Someone can't play the game, so they decide to hack their
So
opponent.
it's not summer camp for hackers. It's Willy Wonka for hackers. I mean, this sounds like
Yeah.
a blast. If I knew how
Yeah.
to code, which I don't, but
But I mean, you really can find a little something for every definition of hacker. It's not just software hackers. It's not just hardware hackers. It's not just social engineers. Think of anything that uses something in a way it wasn't designed to be used. That's going to be a
You met Funranium.
Fun. Yes,
He's
right.
a coffee hacker.
oh, Phil.
Yeah, and actually, yes. So Phil, I apologize to the panel. He gave me a carafe. I actually, Carson's got a picture of this. of this beautiful black blood of the earth. There was their Kona blend, so smooth. And I was going to bring it here for the panel, and I left it in the fridge.
man.
I'm so sorry. That stuff
Well-
is, you've tried it before, Leo.
Yeah, I bought. He had a special, made a special refrigerated carafe, and I used to buy the stuff from him. And then I figured out how to make my own cold brewed coffee because he really is the king of cold brew.
King of cold, and he got me through DEF CON because that was the caffeine I needed.
You know what I do now when I travel? I did it at in Orlando, and I've done it last couple of times we've traveled. Is stores now sell big bottles of cold brew, and I just buy a good because it's good. I bought a big bottle of that, a bottle of half heavy cream, and I've got my morning coffee. It's actually a better way than having to run out to Starbucks.
Alex, you've
7
done the
a.m.
cold brew from Fronteranium, right?
Oh, I have a thing of Black Blood of the Earth in my office fridge because if you've known him for a long time, he makes sure that you don't fall asleep ever
Yes.
again.
I love my Stein of Science. I think it's really. Where is my Stein of Science? Have you seen it around lately? Wonder what happened to that. I might be at
Fronteranium,
home.
though, is a net positive to the world. Whenever I see him, I'm happier. That's
Yeah,
just he brings
yeah.
energy and joy and a different perspective on things.
You know what he does for his full-time job, right?
No.
Lasers.
Yeah, he walks over to people who bought a cool laser off the internet and he takes it from them going, no. Stop.
Yeah.
Bad.
Really?
Yeah,
He
laser
takes it
safety
away.
officer. Well, because he knows that most of the lasers out there have not been certified in any
That
way,
they're
shape, or
dangerous.
form to be used in the United States.
Really?
And his favorite part is when he has to do it to professors at Berkeley. It's like, you should know better.
grief.
This is your job.
But he loves safety and that sort of like technical specifications and that sort of thing. It's a perfect job for him. I didn't know it was a job that existed per se, but I now know that I benefit from it existing because I don't get blinded by idiots with overpowered unlicensed lasers.
Here is
a net positive.
a Stein. Oh. One of the Steins he makes.
It's the promise of...
They're very industrial.
Now, Iain, you said coffee makes you violently ill.
Yes.
Oh, that's
it's a pity
sad.
because it smells delicious.
So you drink tea.
But
That's
I
because you're
drink tea.
British.
And I must say, a big shout out to those people at DEF because I always forget one thing whenever I go to a show, and this time it was my emergency tea bag. So day one.
Emergency tea bag means something completely different at DEF CON.
In fact, most places outside the UK.
For a Catholic priest project. So yeah, no, I just
I think we have a show title.
I don't think I'm going to send this around the company. I was on a show yesterday.
No, I tweeted out that they would day one of B-sides. I was down to drinking Earl Grey like some kind of savage.
What is B-Sides? That's another hacker
B-sides
conference.
is the hacker conference before Black Hat and before
thought-
DEF CON.
Oh, okay.
you've
So
got
Black
3
Hat's before DEF
conferences.
CON and B-Sides is before Black Hat.
Yeah,
And this, do some people stay for all 3 sessions?
I did. Yeah, I basically got home and immediately fell onto the bed and.
So it is a news show. So let's talk about the news that came out of
Okay, well,
Black
the
Hat.
number one story from DEF CON, and I'm not sure if Carson can find pictures of this, is that there was an official village for hacker furries.
I don't think we
I'm
need a
not
picture
even
of-
joking
yeah,
about that
don't-
either.
Don't do the picture thing. We're good. Respect, but
What did they do in the village?
Just like it sounds, they were actually wearing their furry costumes.
And just hung
thought-
out?
I did see a lot of furries
Yeah,
there.
right?
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
I don't know what a furry is, and I don't want to know.
Thank you.
U.S. military, is it related to neckbeards?
no.
No, it's
people who like dressing up as their favorite animal.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Have
Yeah.
Occasionally, I like to dress up as Bambi.
Okay. I'm gonna unpack that
it
later
takes
on.
all sorts to make the world.
The U.S.
Yeah,
military was at DEF CON, according to one Iain Thomson.
Yeah, they had an aviation village for the aviation hacking village for the first
They want
time.
people to hack planes?
Yeah. Planes, air bases, flight control systems on helicopters. They had the F-15. They had a team of hackers going through the F-15's flight control
Wow.
systems, trying to find bugs there.
Is the theory that you hear this a lot, where it's like bug bounties and hackathons. What is the goal of something like this? What does the military learn from this?
Well, basically, I was chatting to one of their people, and he was saying that they've always had people looking at the hardware issues, for the last 40 years, but it's only in the last 5 or 6 years that they've actually had teams of military hackers trying to hack their own systems.
they're doing what we call pen testing,
penetration testing. But the thinking was, and this was pioneered by Katie Mazouris, who convinced them to give it a shot.
She's great.
It's
I love her.
a genius, and they wanted to get outside eyes because, if you're in the Air Force, you know the control software, you get into a certain mentality that you know the software. Bringing in someone else who's never seen it before can enable you to find things that would have been missed. And also, the best hacking talent probably isn't in the US military. So they were opening it up.
So it wasn't recruitment so much as...
Well, I'm willing to bet, if somebody did really well, then they'd be getting a call. If you ever do fancy a new career. Because
this was in the Aviation Village, a Lego model of a U.S. air base.
Yeah, now you see, that was to test out a SCADA control system.
So there's a SCADA control system in this layout.
The whole thing's run off that laptop by a guy with a SCADA control system.
And so your goal as the hacker is to try to get into the system and make that plane crash or make the lights all go off.
And that industrial control is in 80% of the world's airports.
Wow. Now, is there an agreement that if you do figure out how to do that you will tell them how you did it?
I think, for things like the F-15 hacking, then hackers had to be pre-screened. They had to be American citizens and they had to have a security clearance.
They have to have a security clearance.
Yeah, or at least a security check just to make sure they're not,
Right. Well, because if they're going to let you into the bus of one of the planes that's actually in America's defense.
You could do a lot of reconnaissance there.
Exactly.
That's not great.
So
one of the things that you got from this village, though, was they are laser focused on protecting the actual systems that go into warfighting vehicles or into airports. But one of the easiest hacks is also a hack that's been around for the longest time, which is right down on the other side of the aisle, there was the RF village. And they were showing how you could use a $40 radio to spoof a GPS signal.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter how secure you've made your system. If it's relying on a system that can be easily hacked, they can misdirect your forces. And so, the military, like you said, they were so laser focused on protecting the machinery, they realized, oh, wait a minute, what about all the other stuff we depend upon that we don't actually control?
This is all a good thing, obviously.
That's a great thing.
Yeah. And we keep hearing about GPS spoofing due to Russia, so it just makes me happy that someone's thinking about it. Because
well, you could steer a ship into a shore or another ship if you spoof the GPS
You could do that right
signal.
here. You could go to the top of the not the top, the observation deck of the Golden Gate Bridge with your SDR radio. You can find the beacons of all the ships that are in the bay, and then you can start sending them erroneous information.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Forget taking away lasers. Take away people's SDRs.
We need a new fill.
There was a voting machine village. Now, I remember in years past the horrific, ease with which people
and
could.
It really hasn't changed that.
It hasn't changed.
I mean, it's the actual. I was speaking to one of the organisers, and he said we've had one guy come in, sit down in front of a voting machine. 45 minutes later, he's figured out how to change the tallies remotely.
Took 10 minutes for someone to run Nyan Cat on a voting machine.
Yeah.
That's particularly obnoxious.
So imagine Republican, Democrat, and suddenly.
That is one of the worst songs ever recorded.
It really is.
It is.
Bruce Schneier, this is another Iain Thomson piece.
Bruce was on form.
He spoke at Black Hat.
Yeah, he's basically. I think Bruce has got to the point now. He's like, I've made my money. I've got my reputation. I'm just going to say it like it is.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Let's say Bruce Alrighty. Is that a Bruce Alrighty joke?
Bruce Alrighty.
That's weirder
It's
than
the
anything
register.
I've ever written.
It's the register right there. Bruce Alrighty.
We have fun with it. It's.
He says paper ballots would solve all of these problems. It's not hard. It's not controversial.
No, it's been done before. I mean, obviously, you're not hand counting paper
ballots. You don't need to have a paper ballot. You need to have a paper trail.
Correct.
Yeah, although, I mean, what the system he's suggesting, which is the one they've got in Minnesota, is basically you punch out, who you want to vote for.
But isn't that
on
what
card.
went wrong in Florida
and
with
then
the
you
hanging chads and
We're
the butterfly
in Minnesota.
ballot?
I mean, it's surely not beyond the bounds of human possibility to have a paper machine that works, and then you just feed them into the reader, and you've got that paper trail.
Or you could have an electronic machine that prints out a receipt. I guess it's still hackable.
Well,
though,
no, I mean, because the best voting machine I've seen is an electronic voting, and it has a little window with a printer behind it. And when you're done with your vote, it actually correct. It prints your name, it prints your information, and it prints out all your votes, and you can check it. And if it's right, you say, "Okay, I'm done. Move on."
Yeah,
and that's sealed away, so no one can touch that.
But pure electronic voting with no receipt is just
it's a bad idea.
Asking to be hacked.
It's being used by many states, right?
Well, let's not overblow it. I mean, just because they found all those machines that were running an unpatched version of PC Anywhere doesn't mean that that's bad, right? That's the worst that could happen.
Literally everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, Kim Zeta broke a good story over the conference as well, where it was just basically the machines which tally the votes, get the digital votes, had been left connected to the internet. They're supposed to be on there for 10 minutes on election night, and they've been left on there for over a year.
Yeah.
And, people are going to be looking around on that. And this is democracy we're talking about.
One of the talks by a
this
young
guy.
Bill Gates.
He does look like he's 12. I mean, seriously.
And the scary part is he still wears those pants.
Yeah.
This is James Paver. He talked about how GDPR is a hacker's delight.
Yeah. It's a really good... He had
the European Data Protection Regulation. How is it a hacker's delight?
Well, it was fascinating because he said he and his fiancée were in a Polish airport being screwed around by the airport managers. So they thought, well, how can we get back at them? Let's send them a bunch of GDPR requests to take up their time. And then he had an idea. I wonder what information you could get for it just by pretending to be someone and saying, send me all the GDPR information. Under GDPR, send me all the information you've got on me. So he set up a dummy email address for
you
his
should not be able
fiancée.
to do that.
Well, it turns out it's surprisingly easy.
So his real concern was identity theft. If you could pose as Iain Thomson, make a GDPR request, you'd get everything.
Yeah, basically. And the standard of evidence that they were asking for, that are you this person, was laughably poor.
What did they want?
In one case, they accepted an envelope that was addressed to them. They accepted an email just out of the blue.
They don't really verify it. Because they're required by law to answer it within a month, which puts a lot of pressure on them to get the reply out. Otherwise, they're going to be financially liable for that.
Yeah.
An educational software sent Paver his fiance's social security number, date of birth, her mother's maiden name.
Wow.
Another firm sent 10 digits of her credit card number.
10?
10. I think that's all, isn't it? The expiration date, card type, and her postal code.
Yeah.
12.
And
16.
also old email accounts
16.
and passwords.
So you need 6 more. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm never unfreezing my credit. I'm just going to leave it.
just keep it
until I
frozen.
die.
But it was just, the amount of stuff that people were sending in was really quite scary.
really
and
interesting,
as
yeah.
Padre says, it's because they're on a strict 1-month deadline. The penalties are very large if they don't do it. And so people panicked. But yeah, that was even though he looked like he shouldn't even be of drinking age, it was a fascinating talk.
But so they can tweak these because the whole idea of GDPR is they evolve them because they knew that they were going to run into instances where the law didn't quite meet the reality of doing business online. So I'm hoping that they go back and change it, not just get rid of it, because there are parts of GDPR that are a great idea.
Yep.
Putting real penalties for companies violating your data security is a great idea. The whole every website ever has to ask you if it's okay to put cookies. That's stupid. That's really stupid. It doesn't work. So
let alone a search engine ballot on your Android device that companies pay to be on.
Yeah.
Talk about unintended consequences.
It's a bizarre state of
What
affairs.
other stories were important?
Well, we've just had a story which sort of broke on Thursday afternoon. Now, unlike some shows like RSA, they sell their keynotes basically. Companies give them enough money, and so Black Hat has started doing this, but it's a
This
special.
seems like a bad idea. It'd be like me selling a seat at the table during Twit.
Now they do it they bill it as a sponsored
Although
presentation.
that's not a bad idea.
I mean, they would get cut up.
Okay, no, so I can give you a lesson from universities. You're not selling a seat. You're offering an endowed chair.
It's a chair.
No, endowed chair. It has to be an endowed chair because that means you can accept money for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like a well-endowed chair.
but
I mean,
Show title.
If he gets 2,
Right now, you can't say
if
that.
he gets 2, I don't get 1. All right, fine. Can I borrow your shirt?
so anyway, one of these sponsored presentations was done by this company called Crown Sterling, who gave this long present.
By the way, the name Crown Sterling alone sounds like a hoax.
it's
Like it's not serious.
they think they've come up with this brand new encryption scheme, which is
Always be
it's based
suspicious.
on. They actually say based on the rhythm of music and
please.
you watch the video and it's got more It's got buzzwords that Deepak Chopra would be ashamed to say in public.
Kind of
He
sounded
used
like
the
the
6th,
WeWork
8th,
IPO.
and 12th chakra.
Yeah.
To mix.
It was rubbish, and so people actually stood up in the presentation and said, "Look, not only is this rubbish, but it's dangerous rubbish because you're trying to persuade people to use this ridiculous encryption system." And they're now suing the organisers.
What?
Because they're saying, well, you should have made sure that people are going to be polite and listen to us.
You can't sue somebody for getting booed.
Exactly.
Talk about the ultimate sour grapes. I mean,
And it's caused a real sort of stir within the conference attendees as well, because a lot of people, the people on the review board for Black Hat who decide what go on, they don't get any input into the commercial stuff, and they would have picked up on this immediately. But I'm sorry, you can't just go into one of the biggest and best security conferences in the land, spout this kind of stuff, and not expect people to take the mickey out of you.
Yeah.
It's
You should know better than that.
yeah, but they're claiming it was an organised conspiracy, and it really wasn't. I mean, I've spoken to people who are in there, and they couldn't keep a lid on it anymore when the bulls
I
started
think this was
flying.
set up by the fact that there are events where, as a company, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can pay for a friendly audience. You can pay for a polite audience. They just didn't realize that Black Hat wasn't one of those places.
Yeah.
how do the mechanics of that work? So I've been to a lot of keynotes at different types of conferences in my life, even individual companies doing their own thing. How do you ensure people are polite to you?
So you reach out to the PR people and you say, which reporters do you have who are going to be receptive to an idea? Oh, and by the way, we're going to invite them to dinner, or maybe we're taking them to a special event. And if that happens, there's that tit for tat thing in the back of your mind, which is, okay, this is BS, but you know what? They took me to a nice place, so I'm going to shut up for the next 35 minutes.
As opposed to booing.
They say Black Hat has a standard of conduct for attendees, and they didn't enforce it in this case.
Oh, well, the guy that heckled them was escorted out by security. I don't see why that's, it's like, admittedly, about 2 minutes after laying into
Was
them.
there any possible merit in their proposed solution?
No.
No, I mean, I've read the academic paper, and it's just a mess of buzzwords. I've contacted the company to try and find out more information, haven't heard back.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen, everyone I've spoken to are just like, this is complete rubbish.
They had that opportunity. They could have taken the moment to say, okay, people didn't understand our product.
Right.
Yeah.
Let us explain it.
Right.
They didn't do that, which tells me they don't even understand what they thought they were saying to people.
It's
It's conceivable that there are new and valuable encryption techniques out there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I mean, the way to do that is to present evidence for them, not give this sort of happy clappy
It is
talk
math,
about.
and math has a certain kind of unbiased point of view.
Yeah, I mean, but also, the reason they paid the money for the presentation was so that they could say that they presented at Black Hat and get some
Right.
kind of credibility from
As
that.
seen at Black Hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't backfire at all. In that case.
No. I mean, now they're in the Streisand effect
Also,
territory.
we wouldn't have talked about this as much if they weren't suing. Or,
Yeah,
or
I
trying
wouldn't
to
have
cause a
known
ruckus
about it.
So
Yeah.
really, lesson, everyone out
Yeah.
there in the world of PR, don't do that.
And the thing is, they really didn't get upset until the social media outrage started. When people were posting slides from the presentation and saying, does anybody understand this? So if it had just been some guy at Black Hat who got up and heckled them, they probably would have said, okay, well, that's the cost of doing business. But this unintended social media backlash, that's got them for a loop.
Well, Black Hat actually pulled the presentation from his website, which is highly unusual.
A lot of times after DEF CON Black Hat B-Sides, we have stories about new hacks, new things to watch out for, new problems. This didn't seem to be producing a lot of those stories.
No, but follow-ups. My favorite follow-up was Joseph Cox, who was the guy at Motherboard who broke the story about third parties being able to buy your real-time location data. Because
that was a great piece.
That was a really good piece, and it was a good presentation because he actually took everyone through. He said,
Initially, we thought it was just bounty hunters,
Right.
Yeah.
law enforcement. Turns out it can be stalkers.
and he was saying as cheap as $7.50 per location, per real-time location. And those accounts that allow you to do that, they don't charge you unless it's a successful ping.
Oh, jeez.
So you could just keep hitting someone until they turn their phone on. They get a ping, you get your notification, and you're charged $7.50.
Yeah.
But the follow-up for his story was these companies have all said they've stopped doing business like that. And he said, but they've just switched which third party they're allowing to work with them.
Right.
And it's still laugibly easy for you to abuse that system.
I saw a recent paper. This guy said I was able to I could stalk somebody using this.
Yeah.
They didn't need to.
because they still have that allowance for legitimate law enforcement.
But not actually Leos, people working with law
With
enforcement.
law enforcement.
Yeah.
The
the
net
rub.
goes from this size to enormous when you do that.
Yeah.
I am shocked that there's not enough moral clarity from carriers. They tend to be such upstanding citizens.
Oh, you sweet old-fashioned thing.
Sarcasm. That didn't go across.
You know, the best new trend in 2019 is carriers sniping at other carriers. You see the one with the AT&T guys moved into the house and he's drinking his wine. And I think it's great. If carriers start attacking other carriers, the whole house of cards will fall down. I
did have hopes that T-Mobile were going to shake things up when.
Well, this was an Xfinity ad saying, "Why you let AT&T in your house? We'll never know," which I thought was great. I want to see AT&T snipe at Verizon. I want to see Verizon snipe at T-Mobile.
I just want to see my Comcast connection actually work at the speed I'm paying for.
Hey, financial report. Yeah, who wouldn't? Financial reporter.
Hi.
What's Sprint T-Mobile? Is that going to go or no?
It's more of a political question right now than it is a question for...
Well, it's been approved by the feds. It's the states now.
State AGs. And I think we're going to see some pushback from states like California and so forth who are opposed to reducing the number of carriers from 4 to 3 and therefore making it less competitive. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I want to have a better answer than that for you, Leo, but we'll see.
Put aside all the politics for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to ask honestly, doesn't it just make sense? Because T-Mobile or Sprint alone cannot compete against Verizon or AT&T.
It's the same reason that they allowed Sirius and XM to merge.
Right.
There were only 2 satellite radio businesses, but neither one was going to succeed by itself, so they allowed them to merge, even though they, in fact, reduced the set to 1.
But you don't have competition in the mobile market. That is the fundamental problem.
That's the difference. Satellite radio competes with regular radio, podcasts, everything else.
And
there's no competition for
that
for
does
mobile
get me
carriers.
because T-Mobile was a disruptive force. It
Yeah.
really
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And I'm very afraid you're going to lose that once it becomes as big as the other two. But
Unless the plan was to let Dish become the new disruptor. And if you know Charlie Ergen at all, he is crazy. He's perfect. He is another John Ledger. He could absolutely be the wild iconoclast and drive the industry in new ways.
But we already had one. He was covered in pink. He had pink socks. He cooked on Instagram Live. It was the weirdest thing in the world, but he actually made enough of a splash to drive some changes in the space.
Yes.
And my thought is, if you go from 4 to 3, I don't know if that boosts his ability to do that. I think it probably actually makes him a bit more reticent to shake things up.
Sure, he's now as big as AT&T and
now
Verizon.
incumbent.
I know, that's my fear.
one of the other problems
But isn't that what
in
happens
the deal,
to-
they have to shed some of the frequencies that they have
Right.
in order to open up for another competitor. But you can't just take random frequencies, throw them together, and say you're now a viable competitor.
No. And also, if we're going to go to 3 carriers, we can go back to 4 carriers. Just start me at 4 and leave me there. Like,
Why? What's the point?
Well, the point is so that way they can make a lot more money.
Yeah, but
I don't care about their profit margin.
This is it. I mean, it's like when you come to the US from I mean, you live in Rome on and off, and you've seen how much people pay for their mobiles there, and then you come here and it's
Bad
just
example,
like,
though.
ow, that hurts.
I get unlimited data, unlimited voice, unlimited international. I pay €5 a month.
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
Wait, what?
It's a Vatican plan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's got the special priest plan.
It's the
That's
priest
not-
Even so, I am paying
Very
more.
exclusive.
Yeah, you got to go through a lot to get this plan.
Within 10 miles
Terms
of
and
the Pope.
conditions
How do
may
you
apply.
feel about sex? Because it's not, if you're going to give up marriage, then maybe you could get a
Yeah,
plan
so
like
I mean, I can't have kids, but I've got a killer cell plan.
€5. It's the La Familia plan.
But you see, coming over here, my mobile costs doubled, my internet access costs doubled,
Yeah.
and it's because you don't have proper competition in a free market.
And
driving
terrible
prices
internet.
down. Oh God, yeah,
Terrible internet.
But how do you force that? So if you can't take 2 of the smallest carriers to make a competing carrier, the only other option really is to force the 2 largest carriers to shed some of their customer base and frequencies. How do you do that?
Or you make it more attractive and you carve out spectrum specifically to allow for the introduction of a 5th provider.
Right.
I mean,
the problem is we already sold the spectrum. So they own it.
left in the back, you know?
But it's not the good spectrum. We want the good stuff.
spectrum. Well, then maybe you force a redistribution of spectrum, like you're saying. I mean, like, you might have to get radical about this, but there's no political will right now to do
Absolutely
any
not.
work on the carriers in the tech world, while there is a lot of political will to break up tech companies, which are problematic for different reasons. But we're only seeing the techlash hit Apple, Google.
It's true. Why
Yeah.
doesn't it hit some of these broadband
because the
providers?
head of the FCC is Verizon's
pay a
ex-lawyer,
lot of
and
money
he will
to Congress. Yeah.
he will. I mean, Ajit Pai or Idjit Pai, as he's referred to in the office, is just he will do whatever the carriers tell him to. He's been stalling robocalling legislation for the last 2 years because it would hit the mobile phone, the telco's profits. Every single decision he makes seems to be, what would Verizon do? You know, it's...
I mean, but we knew he was going to be that bad coming in.
Yeah.
Like, when Obama left and Trump was coming in, we all went, oh, it's going to be Ajit.
Yeah.
And it's going to be terrible.
But remember,
And then-
we thought Tom Wheeler would be like that.
We
too.
did. We did.
I was wrong
He
about
also
Tom
was a
Wheeler.
lobbyist for
Yeah.
these companies.
Yes,
I mean,
but-
that's who
But
runs the FCC.
he had his come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
The first time
With
he
net
tried
neutrality.
to push that awful net neutrality bill,
Yeah.
he
And he
flipped.
got all those
180.
comments.
Yeah.
And I think Chairman Pai has learned from that the key is not to allow comments.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what he's trying to do in this case. But
Yeah.
I think the Tom Wheeler example is the rare moment of government working. Like,
Yeah.
Tom Wheeler is now universally liked in the tech world because he was honest and didn't pursue a rigid agenda and listened and really moved the ball forward.
Yeah.
I was very wrong about Tom Wheeler, and I'll cheerfully
I
own
was
up
too.
to it. Yeah.
I was too.
So George Burns once said, "It's a shame the only people who know how to run the country are cutting hair and drying cabs." I want to add, or podcasters. We're going to take a break.
I feel like I'm mixing some context there.
I'm just saying, you guys seem to know what to do, and I think wish you were in charge. Let's put it that way.
Revolution.
Revolution. It's great to have Father Robert Ballecer back from the Vatican, if only for a few short days. The digital Jesuit, jesuit.org, at Padre SJ on the Twitter. Follow him on the tweets, because he's always a tweeter. He's got great tweets. Also, Iain Thomson, news editor at theregister.co.uk. And Alex Wilhelm, the newly married Alex Wilhelm, editor-in-chief of Crunchbase News. Still splitting your time between the coasts?
I am. I'm on a plane on Friday and then back
Yikes.
here on the
Yikes.
15th.
All right.
So-
Well, we're really glad you're out here for right
Good to
now.
be here.
Our show today brought to you by LegalZoom. And in more ways than one. When it came time to start Twit 15 years ago, I asked Kevin Rose, what should I do? I want to start a company. He said, go to LegalZoom. The first thing you do, create an LLC with LegalZoom. The next thing you do, trademark your name and your logo. And I did all that. And the thing is, this, it's just me. It was a very small startup. I didn't have the money to go to a fancy lawyer, $350 an hour. LegalZoom was affordable. It was easy. I was able to get the legal work I needed it done, and that's great. Since then, we've used LegalZoom for many other things. It's National Make a Will Month right now. LegalZoom is a great way to make your will. For more than 18 years, LegalZoom has developed a very straightforward way for you to protect what you care about the most, your family and your assets. And it all starts with a last will or a living trust estate plan. And I know when I say living trust, people go, oh, that sounds complicated. Don't worry, LegalZoom can help you. They have a lot of stuff online, resources that can help you figure out what's right for you. In fact, I was just reading, funny that I should be bringing this up, I was just reading the LegalZoom pages on a revocable living trust. But even then, you can go farther because they have a network of independent attorneys. They're not a law firm, but they have worked to contract with attorneys in every state that can provide advice if you need more direction. You're not going to be billed by the hour. It's not a law firm, but you can, at a flat rate, find the information you need to get things done and do it fast and easy and get real clarity. 1 million people now, 1 million have counted on LegalZoom for a will or living trust. Before another summer passes by, you should too. This is it. National Make a Will Month at LegalZoom. I know you've been thinking about it. Now's the time. Do a healthcare directive. I just did that too. And if you have pets, even if you don't have kids, if you have pets, you can make a will saying what happens to your pets if something should happen to you. That's an important thing to do. You don't want to just let Fido languish. Make things easier for those you care about the most. Check out LegalZoom's last will and living trust estate plans. National Make a Will Month. It's time. Don't put it off. LegalZoom.com. And if you use the offer code TWIT at LegalZoom, you'll get some special savings. That's LegalZoom.com. They've been around for a long time. Really a great company. Enter the offer code TWIT for special savings. Visit LegalZoom.com and enter TWIT at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. And if you're starting a business, by the way, they do that too, as I said, and they do a great job. Android Q is not a dessert.
End of the world.
They had to do it.
I am so pleased.
I know, eventually.
Oh my God, that was endless. And what Google said.
But what were they going to do? I mean, the
Well,
only one.
quince pie, I don't know.
We were
Quinoa.
we were thinking
Android
quinoa.
Quinoa
but
is
that
not a
was-
dessert, even if you put cinnamon
You
and
could
sugar
put sugar
in
in that stuff.
That's not a
It's about as disgusting
Android
as
quinoa.
before.
And this is the problem. And finally Google acknowledged it. These were internal code names.
Yeah.
And somehow but they pointed out internationally it doesn't make sense. People don't know what Kit Kat bar. Actually, they do. But
Yeah, just a huge
that's a
fan.
bad example, but that's part of the problem. Oreos,
nougat, or is pronounced differently.
nougat,
or
as your people
nugget.
say, or nugget.
It's
Like aluminium.
So they've decided, no,
Hey,
it
listen,
should just
we
be
invented
Q.
this stuff,
It'll
okay?
just be, actually, it's Android 10.
Yeah.
Right? Not even
Okay,
Q.
that bothers me more than anything else. Why is 10 the new starting point for
Yeah.
every
Well, we were at
technology?
9.
Go back in time. Where's
But this
Windows
is
9? I'm still
Pi-
mad
I know,
about that.
exactly.
Pi is an Android 9.
iPhone 10, Windows 10,
Yeah.
Android 10.
I mean, maybe they
OS
just ran
10.
out of ideas.
It could have been worse. They could have made it an X. That would have really been a frustration.
Tesla 10. Or wait, no, that was Tesla X.
That was an
Sorry.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's I didn't even think of that. But it's 10 because logically they just did 9.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss the whimsy.
I'm going to miss the statues.
Yes, on the Google campus, they
Yeah.
would do after each major release.
Yeah.
They were cute.
They were cute. It'll be out soon. This is a bad time to buy a phone. Lisa is, as we speak, at the Genius Bar at the Apple Store because her iPhone XS is funky as heck. And it died while we were on a trip, and I gave her mine, and she says, yours is so much faster. I said, I've told you, you've been suffering with this phone for almost a year. But I said, but why bring it to the Apple Store? You're getting a new one in 3 weeks. And then I got a question, should I bring a Pixel XL? This is on our new show, Ask the Tech Guys. The guy said, should I bring a fancy camera or the Pixel 3 with me on my next trip? And I said, well, don't bring the Pixel 3, bring the Pixel 4. That's going to be out in 2 months. And I just got, it's charging on my built-in Qi charger on my Lenovo screen. I just got the shimmer version of the Note.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So this is a perfect example of why we are past peak smartphone.
It's like a 7th grader's pencil box.
There's nothing more you can do on a smartphone, right? They've done it all. So now everybody in every review said, put the shimmery back.
So
I mean,
It's a rainbow.
So let me get this straight. The
You're
new
right.
innovation is glitter.
Yes. Literally.
All right. So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I was prepping for the show today. I was reading through all the Apple news about the new iPhones and all this.
It's all rumor. We don't know for
right.
sure.
All the Apple rumor news, which
Yeah.
is now these days correct most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
I have an iPhone 7. I'm going to get a new iPhone. I don't really care which one. Should I just wait and buy whatever the mid-range option is? Is that the right way to go?
Don't get a phone now.
People on Twitter have already made that very clear.
Yeah.
I got shouted at a little bit. But are any of the new phones going to be fine? Or is anything special about them that you care about?
I'm
look
still
forward
used to having a phone for more than 2 years. That's kind of
Yeah.
my thing.
Yeah, I'm not. I wish I could because I don't want to. Literally these are $5,000 and $6,000 quarters for me.
Yeah.
Because I have to buy all these new, and they're all over $1,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gone crazy.
And I don't have any need for it, but I got to review them. I got to talk about them. By the way, the Note 10 Plus, very nice, but not particularly nicer than the S10 Plus.
I've got to say, I was very impressed with. I bought a Pixel 3a.
I think the
and,
3 is a good choice.
It's a very good phone. It does some weird things. I'm just trying to find. I took it to on holiday in Scotland, and it's not there. There was a picture of. I took a picture of one of those Highland cows, the big shaggy ones, and it looked like it was levitating. It was. I don't know what's
That's
going
the new
on.
feature.
Yeah, I don't.
Flying cows.
Yogi shot.
See, I'm stuck because I refuse to buy a phone
What are
that
you
does
using?
not have an
Headphone
audio
jack. Well,
headphone jack.
that's
I
the
need
big.
that. I want
that's,
that.
I think in some ways, besides the shimmery back of the Note 10 Plus, that's the other big story. Samsung's finally giving up after years of mocking Apple.
Yes.
For taking out the headphone
Because
jack.
it's so brave.
It's a courage, man.
They
It's
said,
courage.
well, we wanted to put a bigger battery in there, and so we could add a little skosh. You got a skosh more room. We could put a bigger battery in there, but I don't know.
Are you an AirPods user now or equivalent?
They're so awful. They're so awful, aren't they?
They're so convenient. I've moved over to them.
How many of them have you lost though? Have you?
Between Liza and I, we own 3 pairs.
Yeah.
We've
Right.
lost none, but I have broken one of them.
Yeah.
So we have 2 functioning pairs.
They're not comfortable.
No.
Your ears hurt.
Yes.
The sound sucks.
Yes.
That doesn't seal your ears, so you tend to turn it up too loud, which is deafening.
Yeah.
And you look like you've got dribble coming out of your ear. What's the upside?
Better phone call audio quality, in my experience.
Wait,
Is
I'm
it?
sorry. Wait, hold on. What's a phone call?
It's when you live far from your partner, so you talk on the phone a lot.
Oh,
half
you
the
do
time.
talk on the phone.
Yeah, I do a lot of FaceTime.
So
and
I do use the Jabra Elites, which they seal. They fit a little better in the ear. They don't fall off. The sound is infinitely better, and they're somewhat more comfortable. They have interchangeable tips.
I just wear
so I do
studio
understand
headphones
getting rid of the string is a nice thing. It's nice not to have a cord.
Oh, yeah, but you go to a place like DEF CON and you bring up your scanner and
No
you see
Bluetooth
all these
allowed.
iPhones
Yeah.
with Bluetooth
No
on.
Bluetooth
You're like, oh,
allowed.
I know.
If you
Well,
don't-
you
if
know,
don't
they're
want it, it's
beaconing. We've talked about this several times now. They're beaconing. All the Apple stuff
Yeah.
beacons.
Yep.
This failed technology, the Bluetooth beacon technology that Apple was so high on, they thought, oh, you'll walk into a Gap, and as you walk by the Levi's pile, it'll
They'll
say,
know it's
over
you."
over here, Leo.
Yeah,
we got
great.
a deal on Levi's. I didn't want that. No one wanted it except
Yeah.
Mr. Gap. And Apple thought this was going to be the next big thing. You're right. That cow is levitating.
Isn't it? I don't know what's going on in the Pixel phone, but that
What
is
if we
just.
held
Just send me, paste that picture into the chat on the thing so I could show people. There's something that the Pixel did too much computation. That's a little too much computation.
It looks like a really bad Photoshop of a yak.
Well, I did get accused of photoshopping this, and I.
Interesting thing. I've read a number of articles now with the reviews of the Note 10 Plus, which is, in theory, it's the newest camera. It's got 3 lenses, wide, telephoto, normal. It's got computational photography. It's got a time of flight sensor on it, so it knows 3 dimensions. It could do all this stuff. In theory, it should be the greatest camera phone out there. And I've read numerous articles comparing it to the 1-year-old Pixel 3, saying the Pixel 3 is better.
Oh, man.
With one lens, all computation. But sometimes computation goes wrong. And
Okay, there you
I
go.
got to show you
Tweeted
this
it out.
picture because... Did you send it, put it in the chat?
I
room?
tweeted it out, in fact.
Oh, you tweeted it?
Yes.
What is this tweet of which you speak?
It's the service you're back on, it seems like.
I couldn't really. Are you Iain Thomson?
Yeah, all one word.
that's like a deepfake AI nightmare.
Yeah, just everyone, hold tight. We're almost there.
And how do you spell
IAINTHOMSON.
Oh, that's horrible.
No P. which
Okay,
means-
this is
What are they doing to that poor yak?
This is something, and this is straight out of the camera.
Yeah. And people accused me of photoshopping in a cow, which first off, in Scotland, why would I do that?
You know, this is a very hard thing to do in augmented reality, which is to get the. This is crazy. If you would Photoshop a shadow right under here, it would be floating.
It is bizarre.
There is something about the picture that just looks off. It just,
Yeah.
I don't. I don't
You're
immediately
making a
know
point
what it
about
is.
painting things right there, almost, and like how you can't get them to lay flat when you paint them. Like
Yeah.
this is that, but like the really weird, actual, real version of it.
Yeah.
So this, you know what? This is actually a really important photo because it demonstrates how much computational photography is going on.
in the camera.
In the
phone
camera.
itself.
And while most of the time it's great, night sight is amazing.
Yep.
I just think that the quality of the images that come off the Pixel 3 XL and the Pixel 3, and even the A, which doesn't have that smart chip but still manages to do quite a bit, is better than any of the more recent cameras.
Yeah.
Except
Except if it's
Sometimes-
a flying cow. Yeah.
sometimes you get a flying cow.
This is going to change our perception of what a real image is and is not.
Well,
Because
that's a
computation,
good
it's going to
subject.
become normal.
This is a very good subject right now because we've been talking a lot about deep fakes. We've been talking about computational photography. We've been talking about truth. And we're in an era now where I think it's pretty safe to say you cannot assume that any image or video you're watching is the actual. Used to say pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now it's pictures and it didn't happen.
Fake,
Well, right?
When everything moves to computational
or if someone commented without
imagery,
fake moves.
it's all fake.
Yeah.
None of it's actually real. It's not a captured frame.
Yeah.
It's a reconstituted computational image.
Well, there's some interesting work being done in the AI field. As sort of everyone's familiar with deepfakes now, but now the real gold rush is finding out the anti-deepfakes technology, being able to train AI systems to spot deepfakes. And this was one of the talks that came up in Black Hat. They're actually using mice to do it.
Mice.
Yeah.
If mice can spot it, then a fifth grader surely can.
Well, the thinking behind it is this: mice are very good at detecting human voices and actual human voices, and they're also, as it turns out, quite good at detecting fake ones as well.
It's a life or death thing for them.
Yeah, so basically what they've done is they've wired some brains up, mice brains up, they look at the neural patterns when they're listening to speech, and they can predict with 70% accuracy whether this is an actual human speaking or whether this is a deep fake. Obviously, there's some work to be done on this, and the mice aren't particularly happy about it, but, there are some interesting bits of research going on in how to spot this.
I talked on Friday with hacker Bcrypt, who was really wonderful. Really enjoyed talking to her. And she was talking about her friend Aviv Ovadia, who predicted the fake news crisis in 2016. He calls what's about to happen the infopocalypse. And this is the side effect, perhaps, of fake news deepfakes, photoshops, is that at some point you don't trust anything.
Yeah.
And what was at one, has been until recently an amazing variety of information at your fingertips now becomes nothing. If this continues, you don't know what's true or not, and so you don't trust anything.
There was a panel at DEF CON up in one of the towers on deepfakes, and it was interesting because there was one comment that said, people assume that this is about trust, finding the way to put trust into an image, into our video. So the problem is we're looking at it backwards. This is not about trust. This is about confirmation bias.
You believe what you want to believe.
You find what confirms your suspicions, and deepfakes are allowing that. So unless you can solve for that, for the fact that people want to confirm their bias, which we can't, by the way, it's spoiler, then the deepfake technology it's not really the issue, it's a symptom of the issue.
I mean, people fall for all sorts of Photoshop stuff on Facebook today that's very, very unsophisticated. Saying this can be more sophisticated isn't
Maybe
terrifying.
the mice will save us.
Can we go back and help me with something?
Yes.
Computational photography.
Ah.
So I'm the dumb one at the table. What's that?
It's basically the image processing software within the camera, which is then used to improve the image before you actually see it.
As a perfect example, this Pixel 3a doesn't have a very big sensor. It has a tiny lens that's not very good glass. It's only a few elements. So the information going into the camera is terrible. But it's able to, because this is a powerful computer, and the Pixel 3 XL at least, and 3 have a dedicated processor just for image processing. They're able to make images that look better in many cases than a high-end camera from this lousy input.
So it's almost like
Except sometimes you get a floating
quality because of the computer itself or the floating yak. Okay.
We've actually been using it for a long time, even in non-sophisticated cameras. We call it HDR. HDR is a form of computational imagery because you take two images that could not exist at the same time on that sensor, and you composite them together. You take one at the extreme high range of exposure and at the low range of exposure, and then you put them together. So computational imagery is just that multiplied a couple of times.
Okay.
You're now taking data that never existed as an actual bit of information coming into the sensor, and you're forming an image around it.
So now photos that I take with my iPhone 7, which I presume has some of this technology, aren't actually representations of reality. They are touched up by the phone itself and how it does.
In fact, that's a good point.
So, I mean...
That's
so
how
nothing
you get...
is real and we're all in...
That's how you get fake moos.
Yeah.
Fake moos?
Yeah, you get floating cows. This is an example of Google's nights. Actually, this is the iPhone XS on the left. It was dark. It's Central Park. You can't see a lot of detail. You can see the buildings behind. But the night sight, and this is the Google Pixel on the right, what it does is it takes as many as 12 images. It looks for the stuff that doesn't move in those 12 images, and it stacks them. It does multiple exposures, and it stacks them. HDR.
HDR.
With one
HDR.
shot, in effect, except that it's 12 shots with one button.
No, we should say that HDR really started as sort of an analog phenomenon when photographers realized they could take
stack negatives.
Correct. And then we just made it far more sophisticated.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to progress, but I am now. I did not know the fact that there was that much computer work behind images that I currently take on these phones.
Oh, yeah.
Alil will remember this. When HDR became popular, there was a whole side movement that said, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's not real photography.
Yeah.
You have to find the image. You can't just make the image.
I think photojournalists have always had the kind of ethos that you don't change the image.
Right.
Yeah, you'd clean it up a bit.
You could maybe brighten it, but you can't do what you really can't do is regional retouching. You could do an overall brightening. You could change the contrast, but what you can't do is say I'm going to retouch this or retouch that. That's modifying the image.
Right.
And I don't know if that. Just like all other journalistic ethics, I don't know if anybody even. I mean, do they teach that anymore? Even I don't know if that's gone by the wayside.
Ethics. That's that place north of Kent. Isn't
Yes. I honestly think, and partly it's because of the internet and competition. At this point, getting the clicks is all that really matters.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to two guys who make their living publishing on the net. Maybe tell me I'm wrong.
I wish I could. I really wish I could.
By the way, you're starting to see this effect in video, in cinematography. They introduced a process a couple of years ago called ACES, which is a way to make closer to what your eye can actually see what's being displayed on film. Because a good camera can display 11 stops of contrast. your eye can see 14. So you can't see the extreme low or the extreme high on film. ACES actually allows you to put really, really bright and really, really dark.
Okay.
But it also means that what you're seeing on film wasn't actually filmed. It was computed later on.
That's not new, though. I mean, the dirty little secret of movies is that they can retouch actors and actresses to look more beautiful. They often routinely do. That creates an issue, too, because we compare ourselves to the images on the screen, whether it's Instagram or on the movie screen. Yeah. And if we can't live up to those fake images, we feel inadequate somehow.
This is why here on Twit,
we do
look
not
the way
retouch.
We do, because we didn't try.
We don't even use makeup.
I am in HDR right now.
I mean, you do look tremendous. I think the rest of us could use a little bit of help.
Well, this is also why, I mean, the most genuine representation of cinema was the battle of winter at Winterfell in Game of Thrones Season 8. Complete darkness.
The dark one.
Oh, okay. I was like, that was a terrible scene. I'm still mad at that entire season.
I honestly thought there was something wrong with either me or my TV when I was watching.
I feel like if you had a good TV and a good signal, you could probably see
it. If you had an HDR TV and a carrier that was actually providing HDR.
Comcast wasn't streaming at high enough quality.
No.
So you couldn't really tell, even if you had an HDR TV.
I have seen every season of Game of Thrones at least 3 times, except for season 8. Which is
that's because you never want it to end.
No, I just wish they ended it correctly. I don't mind if I get on an airplane. I want there to be a landing. In this case, it was a show that ended in a crash.
Kind of crashed.
Well, George R.R. Martin basically confirmed that's not how he's ending the series.
Oh, really? Bran's not going to be king.
Hey, spoilers!
Whoa! He was joking. Cut that out. He was joking. That's crazy talk. That couldn't happen.
Yeah, they would never be that stupid nuts. On the show. Sorry, I have derailed
We just ticked off a bunch of people.
No. If you haven't watched it by now, you're never going to watch it.
I started watching Game of Thrones when I was in college.
It's just getting to Rome now.
What?
Yeah, we get things really
Does
late.
Rome watch?
No.
Okay, we're good.
I want to... So... I can't say anything.
Let's just say it's best left, and I think there is some merit to the petition to get the entire season reshot by somebody who knows what they're doing.
No merit to that.
Phones. Something about phones.
No merit to that whatsoever. It's not going to be remade, but I think you're right. I think George R.R. Martin has said, well, I'm going to end it my way.
Yeah, when he finally gets round to it.
He's never going to finish it. I've heard 2 whole books to do.
Writer's block is a thing, and I know it. I've experienced it myself. But for this long?
In a recent interview, he said, well, the TV show was really a problem because I would watch that, and then I would think, oh, I've really got to get writing. And he said, it's not enough to write 4 pages. I got to write 40 pages, but I can't. And so I think he felt there was increasing pressure on him. He's not in the greatest of health.
No. This is the fear that he dies.
I think we have the completed set. And
he estimated that he needs at least 15 more Starks to kill to tell the story.
I got to make some more Starks.
And he doesn't have that many Starks.
We need more Starks. Our show today brought to you by Roman. I think this is a great company. You've seen the ads on TV where there's the father and the son. It's just, I find it so inspiring. Guys are, look, the story on the TV ad is the son was ill and his father was a doctor. Unfortunately, his father was able to diagnose him. But the problem is we guys are awful at taking care of our health. Because what are we taught in Little League, right? Just rub some dirt on it and get back in the game. Yeah. And so whether it's a knee injury or a bad back or something worse, guys just are more comfortable letting it go. And in fact, if it weren't for my wife, I probably would never go to the doctor, right? But she says, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. There is one condition that even if you go to the doctor, it's hard to talk about, of course, ED. 70% of the guys who suffer from ED, and suffer's the word, don't get treated for it. They just don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing. Roman is a brilliant company. They don't just do ED, but we could focus on ED, that will connect you with a licensed doctor in your state. So a state licensed doctor online, they will give you a checkup, in effect, an online checkup in the comfort and privacy of your own home. You can talk to them. It's a little easier because it's online. And then if the doctor decides treatment's appropriate, very important, they can prescribe genuine medication, not something with sawdust and you wouldn't believe some of the stuff you get from overseas. This is the real stuff that can be delivered in discreet packaging right to your door with free 2-day shipping. In fact, we're going to even set it up so that the visit is free as well. No charge for the initial medical visit. It's confidential. It's online. It's easy. Guys, I know it's something nobody wants to talk about, but you can go to the doctor, tackle ED. There's no shame in it. It happens to guys of all ages, but it is important to get it checked out because it can be an underlying other problem as well. And you don't want to suffer from it. With Roman, it's easy to connect with a doctor for free and an online visit, but you got to go through our address because normally I think they charge you for that initial visit. GetRoman.com/twit. That's the address. And 2-day shipping for free. GetRoman.com/twit. Look, you don't have to say anything. Mum's the word, talking one guy to another. Or if you've got a guy in your life and you know there's a problem, you tell him about it, okay? GetRoman.com/twit.
So notably, this company has a parent company of sorts called Row, which has 3 different brands, of which Roman is now one of them.
Yeah.
And they've raised like $176 million.
Because it turns out it's not just ED. There's hair loss. There's other things that are going on. And guys are so bad, we just suffer in silence. We're just taught it's not, So I think this is a good thing. I'm all for it. I have no problem with it at all.
Telemedicine as a general principle is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some things you got to go to the doctor for, but this is not one of them.
If your arm falls off.
Yes. If your arm falls off, go to the doctor. If you've got a flying cow, go to the doctor.
I'm seeing reports that, in fact, ED is much more common now in young people than it ever was.
It is.
Yeah. And
why?
I know.
I have
just the
theories,
thing.
but I don't know if it's appropriate for this show.
Okay.
The moment it ends.
Okay.
I want to hear these theories. They're gonna be hilarious.
After the show's over.
It's all that eyeball licking and stuff that I guess they do.
What?
The kids today, they lick their eyeballs. You haven't heard? No, he's making that up. Or
Actually, no, I'm not.
Or there's
That's
more going on
kinda
in the
sad.
Vatican than we thought.
Oh,
No, I think it's different to be a kid today. I notice my kids, they don't date. They hang out in groups. I think, honestly, internet pornography, the easy access to pornography has completely changed. Now, you're pretty young, Alex, so it might have impacted you as well. But that's quite a look.
That was a dead and uncomfortable silence.
I was trying to think about how to respond, but for once I was actually speechless.
Alex.exe has stopped responding.
But I honestly think that there is a whole different relationship to sexuality with people under, say, 25 or with the generation that grew up with the internet, and it's not a healthy relationship.
I would amend that just gently because I think millennials are now up to like 40. So I think it's probably Gen Z.
You know what
you're
I
talking
found out?
about.
What the you're a millennial if you're Mark Zuckerberg's age or younger. He's 36.
Okay, well I'm definitely in that.
You're a millennial.
Yeah.
But it might be pre-millennial because my kids are okay, but the younger kid, he's 16, no dating, doesn't it's just and none of his friends, they all hang out. But it's just not, and if there are girls, as there sometimes are, actually my son is kind of in this boat too, they'll hang out with girls, but it's not like in my day, you would date.
Yes. But back then
we would have a steady.
Yeah, but you could go out and do things as a kid back then. You were kicked out of the house and told to go explore. And
now you stay in your room.
Yeah.
Well, also parents don't let their children have nearly as much autonomy as they used to.
That's right.
I mean,
it could be that. It could be stranger danger.
I just read a book about parenting styles around the world and how people in different countries parent differently. And usually, if it's a country with a lot of economic competition, parents tend to be much more involved and like almost oppressive to their children because they're worried. And in countries where economic anxiety is less prevalent, like Sweden and so forth, there's a much more relaxed childhood effect.
Well, thank
In
goodness
America,
Apple's introducing Apple Arcade for just $5 a month, so you never need to leave the house.
it's cheaper than dating, apparently.
I was about to say that it's when we talk about millennials, we're actually talking about a fundamental change in the way that people make relationships.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what I
only
think.
That basically
this
encompasses
week, I think there's a paper in the National Academy of Sciences. Online is now the majority of Americans now meet online.
Of course.
As opposed to meeting in
So
person.
you meet online, you date online, you get your ED medicine online. There's only one thing missing here.
Human connection.
Touching somebody.
Yeah.
Being in the same place.
But do you really want to do that?
No.
I mean,
It's
that's
Come
a
on,
lot
you're
of
not exactly the
time.
expert on this.
Okay. This opens an opportunity, though, for anyone who wants to host people at their house because people don't do this as much as they used to. So if you do, everyone's really excited about it. There's an open dinner party window now in our culture.
And it's actually genuine. We, to make sure Michael does have a social life, we have 16-year-old boys, all his friends come over every Friday night. We have pizza. They play video games. We now have 3 VR systems so that they don't actually have to look at each other while they're playing video games. It's awesome.
That would be too much.
And then this is weird, and I've talked to other parents. Then after the night's over, they all go home and get back online, play with each other online. That is weird.
Well, see,
they're talking to each other. They're in this social environment, but each of them is there in their own home.
It's safer though, because when I was young, we didn't have that. We had guns and paintball guns, which we just took out into the woods and
And
shot.
you had LAN parties.
Sometimes.
I had LAN parties and napalm.
I was basically kicked out. Mum gave me a watch and said, right, you don't lose that watch. You're back at 5 p.m. Otherwise, I come out looking for you.
Because she had no way to reach you by cell phone.
No,
She didn't know where
no
you
cell
were.
phone. It's
Those are good. Those are the good days.
yeah. I think you
We're
maybe
sounding like a bunch of old farts now.
Yeah, but see, we did this.
Thank
'cause
God you're here, Alex. 'cause
We
it-
underestimated the kind of connection that people could make with someone that they've never met. We thought, oh, that's superficial. It's
Yeah.
not a real relationship. When if I want to be honest,
It is.
some of these relationships are more trusting and on a deeper level than
Are
people
they?
who have known each other and been with each other for a decade.
Here's where the difference lies. There's very little friction in an online relationship. And if there is, it's too easy to go, oh yeah, just sign out and come back the next day. You don't have the challenges in an online relationship that you have in a real world relationship.
Do you,
I think.
or are they different? Because
They're different.
if-
You have a little flame.
If
wars.
I talk to two people who have been, say, working in the same place for the last decade, and I start asking things like, well, what's his favorite food? Or what's her favorite kind of movie? Or what's her favorite book?
They may not know.
They may not know.
Right.
If someone's been in an online relationship for 10 years, they know all that stuff.
Right.
Or at least they know what the other person wanted them to know about them.
It's because those relationships are more based on communication itself as
Right.
opposed to being in physical
the same-
proximity. And so there's a higher level of
That's a good
throughput of
point.
information. Now, again,
But don't you
Julio's
think physical touch is important?
huge fan.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
I like cuddling. I like being hugged.
No, I think that's
like-
important.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
that's-
we're human beings. That's what we need.
That's very important.
I really need it. Like, it makes me, if I don't get like a hug in a day, I just feel really sad. Oh, Padre, how you doing?
It's okay.
Do priests hug one another? Of course they do.
Of course.
And they go Pax Vobiscum and all of that, right?
Dominus Favi- I missed the bus. You missed the bus. When's the next bus? You haven't heard that?
That's how you learn
It's from
Latin.
Johnny Dangerously. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's
how,
all right.
how we
okay.
learned Latin. Somebody told me that you don't say God go with you and you also. There's a new phraseology. on
Yeah,
that.
so the old English translation was may the Lord be with you and also with you.
Yeah.
And the new one is
yo, dude.
May the Lord
actually
be
that's
with you.
awesome.
That hasn't changed.
And
More
with your spirit.
and with your spirit. That's new.
Wait. What was the first half?
May the Lord be with you
Okay.
and with your spirit.
Dominus Vobiscum.
It's actually a more faithful translation. It's very alien to anyone who grew up
Yeah.
for 40 years.
Somebody
doing it
told
the
me it's
first way.
different. They said you're
It's
old.
hard. It's
You're
hard.
old. Don't do it that way.
I can't do it without reading it because I always default back to the old way of
Yeah.
doing it.
I kind of like the old way of doing it. It was like namaste.
Kind of.
Yeah, I recognize the God in me, recognize the God in you, kind of.
John Mulaney does a whole thing on this as a lapsed Catholic of how he comes back to the church years later and he's like, they changed everything. I memorized all these things and it's all different.
It's a millennial old tradition. You're not supposed to be changing it every few years. What's wrong? So arcade, we don't know the actual price, but the rumor, and it's a good rumor because it's a German rumor. German rumors are good rumors. $4.99 a month. I like that. 100 games. They change regularly. $5 a month. I would do that.
Do I need another subscription?
Well, this is the problem. Do you need Disney Plus or Apple TV Plus? Or there are a lot of new subscriptions on their way.
So you're not going to
Think
buy
of some
Disney
of
Plus
these
or
new
Apple.
details.
I'm
TV.
discontinuing both Amazon Prime and Netflix.
Okay,
I am
that's-
so
that's next
done
level.
with the
Really?
subscription model. I'm just going to steal everything.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's
in the-
okay. You're a priest. You're
Exactly.
allowed.
It's in the commandments.
Diplomatic
Thou shalt not
immunity.
Netflix.
Yes.
Netflix.
Are you
Thou
reading-
shalt not share thy Netflix password.
Who here is going to get Disney Plus streaming service? No.
I don't care
No
that
one?
much about Marvel.
Yeah. But Michael in the back's going yes.
I mean,
So
it-
why Carson wants to get? Why Carson?
Star
Star Trek?
Star Wars,
Star Wars.
and Disney. I was married in Disney World, so
Oh, that's disgusting.
No.
Come on, it's not like he's wearing a Mickey Mouse and a gimp mask.
What?
they did it on the Mad Hatter ride.
I'm not sure he wasn't wearing a Mickey Mouse hat during that. Were you wearing any Disney paraphernalia?
Top hat to the rehearsal dinner.
Oh, all right.
I don't like this idea of we cut the cord to avoid this sort of bundling, and now we have to do it again.
Well, and I think Ben Thompson's talked about this. Aggregation then disaggregation, bundling,
Yeah.
then disbundling. It seems to be a cycle.
Yep, all of tech is either bundling or unbundling, and that's like it's been a running joke since I started covering tech. Anytime a new software
Is
product
it like the Big Bang? Is it like the universe expanding, contracting, expanding?
Big Bang, Big Crunch. but-
Except there's one big differentiator between how this has been happening in years past, and that is with the additional vertical integrations where the distributor is also the content creator.
Yes.
I don't see that becoming unbundled anytime in the near future. It's not like someone's going to offer them a better deal for their content.
Well, we had that with Netflix. They had Friends and other shows on it, and now that's being torn away.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't care about those two shows. I don't feel the need to go anywhere else.
But what if there were a show you did care about, and now suddenly it's on another channel, and it's going to cost you $10 a month for that one? There's going to be. I think their theory is there's going to be a show, and for some people it is Star Wars or the Marvel comic universe. For some people,
It is an unmissable
it's The
thing.
Office or Friends. I mean, and I think that for some percentage of people it is.
yeah.
But nobody wants to have $10 here, $10 there, $10
No.
there, $10 there. It just gets to be crazy.
But you're the first person I've heard say, I'm going to give up Netflix. Because I feel like Netflix is the default, like I will have some stuff to watch on my various screens.
I only have Netflix for 2 or 3 months out of the year because that's about how much time it takes me to binge through whatever they've added.
Oh, I see.
And then I dump it. I don't need it after that.
They are spending $14 billion this year on new content.
Can't wait for the next 10 Adam Sandler films.
Yeah, that was a waste. I admit it. Although,
You sick.
do you know what the most watched Netflix film of all time is?
Was it an Adam Sandler
It
film?
was a new Adam Sandler movie.
Wait, The Hateful Eight? No. What was the one?
This is how civilization.
No, not The Hateful Eight. He did.
with Jennifer
the audience
Aniston.
laughing at you now.
Yeah.
What was the name of that? My wife watched it, and I said, "Was it good?" And she said, "It's called Murder Mystery."
That's
I said, "Was it good?" She said, "It was okay," but she watched it, and apparently, more people watched Murder Mystery in the first week than any other Netflix original in history.
Oh, good grief.
I mean,
Now-
that's a condemnation of our taste.
yeah.
One of my favorite
I'm just saying
Netflix
it works.
originals.
It works.
Love, Sex, and Robots. Or is that what it's called? Or Love, Death, and Robots? Or something.
Okay.
yeah.
Love something.
It's an anthology series. And so you get many different types
I
of
started
animation.
that,
It's
but,
actually, there's a couple of them that are really good. Watch Lucky
Yeah.
13.
I mean, as a Formula One nut, then the Need for Speed one that they did is.
Yeah.
I would actually consider signing up
was
for
actually-
a month
it was really
just
good,
to
right?
binge it. Oh, it's very
That's
good.
all we talked about on the way up today was that
Yeah.
show.
It was fantastic. I mean,
Net-
it's all the stuff I want Sky to be covering
Yeah.
when they're doing those races.
Netflix
Exactly.
said that Murder Mystery had the biggest opening weekend of any Netflix film, drawing more than 30 million views in its first 3 days.
Good grief, there
So
are
is that
some.
$8 a ticket. That's equivalent to like 240 mil at the box office.
Wow.
Of course, according to Mr. Spielberg, that should not be considered for any sort of award.
Spielberg's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, what service is Spielberg now? He's with Disney, yes? No, he's with Apple.
Yes.
Yes.
What was that one?
That was very confusing when he showed up in that Apple trailer after condemning streaming stuff. But he's doing a streaming TV show.
Oh.
So that's the difference.
That's the difference. Well, I'm on the way to and way back from DEF CON. I watched his attempt to do Ready Player One, and that was
I liked
just,
Ready Player One.
Oh, I thought it was a steaming pile of. Okay.
Oh, I liked it.
No way.
So the people who
liked
don't have stickers in their computer liked it. The people who have stickers in their computer
Okay.
did
Have
not
you read
like
the book
it.
though?
Absolutely. I started by
The
reading the book, then the
was
audio
an
book.
execrable pile of crap.
Okay, I love the book.
The book was the worst book.
I loved the book.
It was so poorly written. And Ernest Cline is a nice guy, and I'm sure it was he was his first novel. He'd never written another one. It was badly written, full of cliches.
It was about
full of
cliches.
It was a cliche, but it was also repetitive. There were lots of problems with it. I thought Spielberg took a kind of mediocre, not really terrible book, fun to read, but a mediocre book, and turned it into a pretty interesting movie by completely changing the plot.
That's probably what drove me nuts. In fact,
You
'cause I
wanted-
hate
you
it.
wanted the book.
I hate it when directors do that.
That's
But
like
the book wasn't good.
I thought
for
it
me,
wasn't
that's like
bad.
GOT. I did not like the books. I read all the books. I didn't like them. I liked the series. I
Storm
love
of
the
Swords,
series.
terrible. Clash
Yep.
of Kings, unreadable. There's all these hedge knights you've never heard of, and you go back 80 pages, like, who is this?
No, that was
But
my
I did
favorite.
that
The
in the
favorite part
TV
of
show.
GOT was like, I don't need to know
I
this.
did that in the TV show when they had it was the beginning of the season. Some guy is died, and they were sending him off down the river, and they shoot an arrow to light his thing. I said, who are these people? Who is this guy?
Embarrassed
I
and
couldn't
Selmy or
remember.
something.
So that happened in the TV show too. That was crazy.
I tried reading.
That was
the-
Blackfish. That was the Blackfish.
Oh, Blackfish, yeah. I do love that this entire twit is just things we don't like.
That's right.
That's just talking about that.
And I got another thing I don't like.
Get off my lawn!
What about the Apple Card? So I used the Apple Card.
Segue for the
Wait,
Asians.
but where do you keep your Apple Card?
That's the problem. So here's the deal with the Apple Card. It's and it was announced at WWDC in June. It's finally out. Everybody can get their Apple Card. Now, the Apple Card really is just a way for Apple to push services. They're just trying to make more money per customer because they can't sell more iPhones. So they want to push Apple Pay, and you get 2% back if you use Apple Pay. You get 1% only if you use just the credit card. You get 3% if you use it to buy something. But here's the deal with the Apple Card. A couple of things. Here's John's Apple Card. So John is keeping it in the sheath because Apple says,
That's convenient.
do not put your Apple Card next to leather. What's your wallet made out of?
1 second.
Next to leather.
Leather. Yeah.
Do not put your Apple Card next to denim.
Oh.
Yeah, leather.
Leather.
Right? Like everyone else's wallet
Also,
in the world.
don't-
Do not put your Apple Card next to other cards.
and don't talk about it. Don't look at it.
It's very sensitive.
First rule of Apple
Don't call
Card
it
is
fat.
And the other thing that's a selling point in Apple Card, I think Apple has really gone off the deep end.
Is it a metal one as well?
Yeah, it's titanium.
Because that works so well with the Centurion
know
card.
that,
A friend of mine had the Centurion card that Amex put out, the matte black titanium one that was supposedly so exclusive.
Yeah.
And she said it's the worst thing ever because it's titanium, it's slightly too thick, and it jams in readers left, right, and center.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling that's going to go the
I
same
have a new
way.
hobby. Well, when all my friends show me their Apple Card, I ask to see it, and then I wipe it with a denim rag. Just hand it back.
Breathe on it.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen if this, in fact, will get... Okay.
Sorry, mate, that's it. It's gone.
Done. Bring it to a genius bar.
That was quite a clank. That was quite a clank.
Can you really not pay your bill online if you have the Apple credit card?
If you lose your phone.
So you
It's
have,
all the phone.
So just go buy another phone, then you can pay for the phone.
With the Apple Card that you don't have, but now you can pay all the bills with the Apple Card. I went out because one of the other things that happens with the digital version on the phone and on the watch is it turns colors when you buy stuff. My Apple Card now looks like I've been storing it in a leather wallet. It's kind of a poop brown. Wouldn't you call that?
Yeah,
That's not a good color.
that's not.
I bought groceries and it turned poop brown.
So wait, so what do the colors
Predicting the
signify?
future?
The colors, if you buy entertainment, it's blue, right, John? If you buy, what else? What other colors are there? You get colors. That's another thing that Apple people apparently like. I feel like
I'm not. This is like I'm coming in late on a really weird cult, and I
Yeah.
just don't understand
It
what's
is-
going on.
so. Another thing I don't like.
Well, I mean, this is why in the Reg we refer to some of these Apple products as the Cupertino idiot
John's gonna
tax.
kill you.
I'm trying to break it. Way to go! It's under there. Can you reach that?
There's
No! Don't put your shoes on it. Oh, you
That was a nice
scuffed
card
it.
you had there, mate.
should not have handed that over. Don't, here, let me have it. I will take care of it, John.
Talk about Ratchet and Clank.
But, I mean, come on, seriously, Steve Jobs must be doing 45 revolutions per minute in his grave.
No,
seeing stuff like that come
This is
out.
BS. There's this mythologizing of Jobs, like, oh, he held it a highest standard. He was a very good salesman. He was the P.T. Barnum of technology.
I agree with you on
he
that.
would be very happy to see how well the Apple Card is,
I don't know.
is doing.
He did care about quality, though.
He did, but that's titanium. That's quality.
Yeah, but if you
So
can't
the
put it in
colors
your
are
pocket,
entertainment is kind of blue-purple. Food and drinks, what color is that? Mustard?
It's between brown and red.
And shopping, which is what I did, is another kind of mustard. There's two browns and a magenta.
The card feels nice.
It's
Same.
metal.
Oh, by the way, if anyone would like to pick up a hobby, if you make a tiny little scratch in an Apple Card and then put tap water on it from anywhere in the United States, it will start to dissolve. Because tap water in the United States is heavy in fluoride, which destroys titanium.
No, really?
It does.
Oh, I will do that when I get my Apple Card. That is. Oh no, wait a minute. We don't have fluoride in Petaluma.
You
Oh,
don't?
they took it out?
They never put it in.
Oh,
No,
wow.
really?
Okay.
So this is actually
that
segues
explains
to
why
another
everyone
story.
looks so gummy here.
This is segues to another story, the 5G health hazards. We'll get to that in just a second. First, a word from our sponsor. You guys have to calm down. You're having way too much fun.
This is
I gotta
fun.
say.
Right.
Way more
Even
thought
without
about
the
credit
coffee.
card.
Father Robert Ballecer, he is running on Funranium. What is it? The dark blood of the earth?
The black blood of the earth. The Kona blend. That stuff is good.
We also are they allowed? So they allow some drug use in the Vatican.
Well, until recently, they sold cigarettes in the duty-free shop in the Vatican.
Do you used to smoke?
This is. I have to unpack this. They have a duty-free shop.
They do, because it's its own country. And Pope Francis put an end to it because he noticed, wait a minute, you have people who are buying like 5 pallets of cigarettes every week.
And they just go 1 foot, and now they're in Rome, and they can sell them.
Well, because a pack of cigarettes in Rome will cost you like €10.
Yeah.
A pack of cigarettes in the Vatican used to cost you €1.
Profit.
Are y'all hiring?
Well,
save so much
so hang on, you had sort of priests sort of waddling out with, no, I'm just putting a bit of weight, really.
Waddling out.
Let it
We've
drip
got
in
tunnels.
cartons of
We got tunnels. Why do you think there's tunnels?
I've read Dan Brown. I know about those.
Iain Thompson's also here. Is the register.co.uk, and from Crunchbase News, Alex Wilhelm Scream.
Yes.
Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. I like doing that. ZipRecruiter. Hiring is hard. If you're the hiring person at your company, or if you're the sole proprietor at your company, you know it's really a pain in the butt when you're down a person. You need to hire somebody. You're already overworked. And then you got to go to multiple job sites, and you got to filter through stacks of resumes. You got to find, some way to filter the wheat from the chaff. You get all these phone calls. It's just it's a nightmare process. I know, because Lisa does the hiring here. When we have to hire somebody for Twit, I know, I watch. It's painful. The other day, we got a 2 weeks notice from our bookkeeper. We had to hire a new bookkeeper. I said, Lisa, don't do all that. ZipRecruiter. She posted once on ZipRecruiter. It posts immediately to 100 plus job sites, plus all the social networks. And here's the amazing thing. It doesn't come to your inbox. It goes into the ZipRecruiter interface. They pre-format all the resumes so they're scannable. You can look at them and they're easy to read. You even have questions you can put in there to screen out people who just don't qualify. Yes, no questions, multiple choice, even essay questions. No phone calls. It all goes into your ZipRecruiter inbox. Now, here's the thing. Lisa's going, oh, that means I got to do the books. I got 2 weeks. I'm never going to find somebody in 2 weeks. She posted it at breakfast. We were doing this. She posted it in ZipRecruiter at breakfast. Within an hour, ding, oh, this person's really good. Another hour. Two more. By lunch, we had 3 great resumes from highly qualified people. And that's something that we don't talk about a lot with ZipRecruiter. They use their matching technology. A lot of people apply for jobs at ZipRecruiter. It's a job site. So they have hundreds of thousands of current resumes. They'll scan those, find people who have the experience you're looking for, and then invite them to apply to your job. ZipRecruiter works so well. This works so well that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. We got it within the first hour. I was blown away. Just really works. They also analyze each incoming application, and they spotlight the top candidates, so you're never going to miss a great match. You could try this for free. This is technology that really works. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. We've used it many times now, and it really works. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. The smartest way to hire. Yes, we got a great bookkeeper as a result. Cherie. So this whole thing about fluoride, remember that was a big thing in the 50s and 60s. It was the kind of the plot of Dr. Strangelove. Yep. Your precious bodily fluids, and they're poisoning us with fluoride. And there was a big movement to keep fluoride out of the water supply.
Despite the fact that you get more fluoride in a cup of tea than you would in,
And we never had it in Petaluma because of people who said, no, it's poisonous.
Oh,
as a result,
Cavities.
In many regions of the country, no cavities at all because there's fluoride in the water.
Yeah. Our country had a military defense issue because of the fluoride in the water. When they were building the Blackbird, the SR-71, that's made out of titanium panels, and they did not know about
They were
that.
washing it?
So the process of washing caused corrosion. And by the way, most of the titanium that went into the creation of the SR-71 fleet came from Russia. They were the #1 exporters of titanium.
So we bought Russian titanium only to ruin it with American water to
fluoride.
spy on the Russians as Americans.
But it had no cavities.
Killing the game.
I'm not going to get in the fluoride debate. That's not what we're talking about here. However, the Journal this week had an article about cities, including, ironically, one just to the north, Santa Rosa, saying no to 5G for several reasons, but there is a big movement saying 5G is unhealthy. The FCC has said again and again that the 5G is no more hazardous than regular cell phone reception, and which is not hazardous. Although the World Health Organization says that radio frequency emissions are as dangerous as other possibly carcinogenic substances as coffee and pickles. So
I don't see anyone giving up their coffees. So,
or pickles.
Well, pickles are just the fruit of the devil, but yes.
Hey,
That's the first wrong thing
dill
you said all
pickles
day.
are awesome.
No.
I like bread and butter pickles.
It's like
too
napalming your
sweet for me.
taste
Too sweet
buds.
for me.
Oh,
I
horrible
can't eat
things.
them anymore. They're not keto,
Really?
but I can eat all the dill pickles
that's
I
right.
want.
They're all
There's
carb.
sugar in them.
Is that why you look so much smaller than you used to? Keto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look tremendous, by the way.
Thank you. So do you.
I mean, no crap aside, you actually look good.
You lost a lot of weight too. How much did you lose?
I walked into rehab at like 185. I was 160.
So you lost it from not drinking?
And I treated a lot of fat for muscle as I worked out more. I'm not in good shape yet, but I'm getting there.
You look pretty muscly.
Now
looks
everyone's
pretty
just
good.
looking at me. Which is
I mean,
weird.
I wasn't going to say it, but now that Leo said it,
All I wanted to say was Leo looks good.
Thank you.
We can leave it there.
Yeah, I've lost about 20 pounds and
Wow.
more to go. But more importantly for me, I had type 2 diabetes, and I wanted to treat that, high blood pressure and high cholesterol. All three indicators are back down, not just to normal, but to low normal.
Excellent.
My doctor was shocked. He said, "Oh, this isn't going to work," and he was blown away. So it's been
Excellent.
very, very good for me.
And this is
But
pure keto?
I'm not recommending it. Yeah, just don't
Okay.
eat carbs. They're not good for you anyway. You don't
Yeah,
need
but
it.
ice cream though, it's a morale improver.
Ice cream is the single thing. You know what?
Ooh, giving it.
That's how Robert De Niro got fat for Raging Bull. He ate ice cream. In fact, an actor wants to get fat. What
See,
they do is they start eating ice cream.
I don't eat ice cream. I only eat gelato.
Yeah.
Which they tell me, the locals tell me, no, this isn't ice cream, it's gelato. I'm like, oh, okay.
Meanwhile, cities and towns throughout Northern California issuing ordinances excluding 5G cell sites from residential areas, citing non-existent health concerns. Portland, Oregon, Whitefish, Montana, lobbying for restrictions. Legislators in 4 states, including New Hampshire, proposing bills mandating further study of health effects before we do this big 5G rollout. Now, it's true, 5G will require 4 times the number of cells. It's millimeter wave,
Correct.
Yeah.
Much higher frequency, much less penetration.
Yeah.
not ionizing energy.
That's the big thing. None of this is ionizing. Everyone's concerned about radiation, but you get radiation off of everything.
You've
The
got
question is-
cosmic rays hitting you from the sun
Exactly.
constantly.
Is it ionizing radiation? That's the radiation you need to be concerned about, and cell towers don't do that. They don't emit ionizing radiation.
I forget what that means. Does anyone know?
Ionizing radiation means that it's so energetic that it has the ability to make other substances, other atoms
To
radioactive.
damage your cells,
right,
essentially.
Okay.
And
And that
not
was-
to mention the fact that the power from these antennas diminishes by the inverse of the square.
Yes, exactly. So,
So-
you've got to pack a lot more of them in. And I think that's what's got a lot of people worried. Plus, there's the general. I mean, we still get people who are claiming that Wi-Fi signals drive them insane.
Yep.
And despite the fact there's never been peer-reviewed double-blind testing to show it. And in fact, you can put one of these people in a room and turn the Wi-Fi on and off, and they won't notice the difference.
The Journal quotes a member of the Santa Rosa Chamber of Commerce, again, just up the road a piece. His name is, I'll give him credit, Jack Tibbetts. He said, for Mr. Tibbetts, it didn't matter whether those new antennas were actually dangerous. He was more concerned some were attached to utility poles a mere 20 feet from people's bedroom windows. Residents complained Verizon had put them up without notifying them. They didn't want these ungainly chunks of public infrastructure anywhere near them. However,
They still quite like having mobile phones, however. That's-
furthermore, Verizon doesn't have to ask. And there apparently is no legal power that can stop them. So you would need to create a new law. The other thing cities don't like is they don't have the leeway they used to have to set pricing for cell sites. federal government has
Yeah,
set prices
that
on
has
these.
really annoyed a lot, and particularly places like San Francisco where it's very, they could charge a lot for these for these stations, and the FCC just said no, just flat fee everyone, even if you're losing money on it, which is ridiculous.
Is that a new thing under Ajit?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's one of his little babies.
Well, and again, that favors the people who are putting up these cell towers. On the other hand, there is a certain societal benefit to having 5G, right? I mean, yeah, they're going to make money on it, but isn't it good? Isn't it good for everybody if 5G is ubiquitous, or no?
Well, there's very interesting talk that went on at DEF CON where someone was saying basically you're not going to see a significant increase in speed from 5G. What you are going to get is all the back-end software which is sending signaling back. That's going to be using the bulk of the stuff. And you're just going to get moderately faster speeds if you're really close to a cell tower.
It would be as if you got yourself a 10 gig fiber connection, but you were only watching videos that required like a dial-up connection. It's not really going to help the individual end user. It's going to help in the aggregate. As you're looking at the backhauls, connecting towers to other towers to other towers, that's where 5G really comes into play because you can use that bandwidth.
So this builds out a lot of future capacity, even if I will not get much higher resolution or speed on my individual phone.
Correct.
So it's still very important to the infrastructure element of the national broadband, mobile broadband system.
5G is great for point-to-point. Like if I have two fixed points, 5G would be fantastic because I can get a really solid wireless link between the two places. But to my phone, am I going to notice the difference between a 3G service and a 5G service? Probably not.
You got pretty fast service now.
Exactly.
30, 40 megabits. I mean, most of what you do on a phone, you don't need faster than that, right?
No.
So even if you're getting 100 megabits, you're not going to notice a big difference. This is the fabulous Randall Munroe's XKCD chart about ionizing radiation. Sleeping.
Yeah.
So they measure ionizing radiation in sieverts. Sleeping next to someone, 0.05 sieverts. Eating a banana, 0.1 sieverts.
Potassium.
Living within 50 miles of a coal plant, 0.3 sieverts a year. Dental x-ray, 5. Using a cell phone, 0. A cell phone's transmitter does not produce ionizing radiation unless it's a banana phone. In the normal yearly background dose from all sources, about 4 microsieverts, which is that's a larger than the nanosieverts. So you're getting that's that green at the bottom here. You're getting quite a bit of dosage just walking around.
There's a corollary to that, though, that explains why we get so afraid when people talk about radiation. Think to Chernobyl. There are people there who absorbed massive doses, like should have been dead, and they lived for 30 years.
Yeah.
And there are people who got marginal fatal doses and they were dead within a week. So it's not just the amount of ionizing radiation that hits you, it's where does it hit you? How strong was it? How close were you to the source?
And how unlucky are you?
And how
by
unlucky
the
are
way,
you? Right.
Alex, you fly to Rhode Island every week or two, right?
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
An airplane flight from New York to LA, 40 nanosieverts. So is that microsieverts?
I'm essentially just microwaved by this point.
You've been fried, my friend.
I just rewatched Chernobyl in the last couple of
Isn't
days.
that a great show?
One's fantastic, but also I watched it because when I knew how it ended, I wanted to go back and kind of re-see how things were done. And yet, it wasn't like all of Europe died. They were worried about that at the beginning. I'd forgotten how terrifying the.
I feel like maybe
there
this
were
was just a TV
there were
show.
Welsh farmers who couldn't sell their sheep.
No,
for
there
over
are people
decades.
living in the exclusion zone right now.
Yeah.
There are communities who have moved back into the
You can
exclusion
get
zone.
vodka from the exclusion zone.
You see, I interviewed one of the last testers at Los Alamos who he managed the last hydrogen bomb test, and he was this cheerful old man in his 90s, and he was convinced that just radiation counts were meaningless because he'd been around the stuff his entire life. He'd worked with people who'd run, and he's just like, it's a lot more about where it hits you, why it hits you, and how, and as you say, how unlucky you are.
Would you say it's safe not to worry about the proximity of cell towers or even 5G cell towers?
I wouldn't want to give someone that assurance because...
Well, we can't prove the negative.
Precisely.
No, I'd like to see some peer-reviewed research. I mean,
There's been a lot of research. People often say cell phones are dangerous. And if it were true that the radiation from cell phones causes cancer, you would expect, at least one of the things you'd expect over the last 20 or 30 years is an increase in particularly brain cancers.
Except, Leo, that's not where people keep their phones.
Where do you keep your phone? in your pocket. Well, has there been more hip cancer?
No, but there has been a decrease in sperm motility
Yes.
in developed worlds.
I just talked to a startup.
I think there's other reasons for that.
I just talked to a startup called Legacy at Y Combinator's demo
CF,
day.
our earlier conversation.
I'm curious as to where you're going with this. It's just like, how hands-on was this demonstration?
Whoa! Pipe down. I talked to a startup called Legacy at YC's demo day on Monday, and they are doing sperm freezing for men, essentially. But
naturally.
what we were talking about was they were advocating that I wear these special underwear that are designed to protect your bits from radiation.
They're lined with silver.
And I went, well, maybe, I don't know.
No, they wanted to advertise with us.
Oh, okay.
really?
Anyways, I just listened and I was like, and I was, nah. Like, it didn't seem to be a big enough threat. So my opinion to your question about should we worry about this is no.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there, by the way, there's been a drop in brain cancers over the last 30 years. Yep. So I think you would see it's not like this is a new technology. We would see this by now. This cell phone radiation is a lot closer to you than a cell tower 40 feet away or 400 feet away. And there is apparently no greater danger from millimeter wave than there would be because none of it's ionizing.
I mean,
It's
had
low
a
energy.
far greater chance of developing a cancer if you slept on top of one of those heating mats because they generated an enormous amount of EM.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, gosh, yes.
I'm a little worried because I sleep on a sleep tracker, which is a little paddle that you put under the mattress and it tells you all about your sleep patterns. I actually talked to somebody who said, there's a lot of EMF coming off of that. You might want to consider removing your sleep tracker paddle.
Yeah, I know this is part of the problems with buying a new mattress. I sail with a guy who works in the field, and it's just like, so how much do they off-gas? He goes, 2 or 3 years, basically, and they'll carry on doing it.
I wasn't talking about that, but that's another issue. Yeah, entirely. So I should mention Randall Munroe is going to be on Triangulation on Friday.
Wow. Okay.
Really?
The creator of XKCD. I'm very excited.
Wow.
We've all admired this guy for so long.
Oh, he's the internet's court jester.
He is incredible, cartoonist, comic book. But the thing is, he understands technology so well, and he's taught people more about technology, I think, than any of us have. He's really amazing. He's got a new book, which is hysterical. How to Absurd Scientific Advice for Common Real-World Problems. It is a laugh riot.
He actually predicted the future. Years and years ago, when the TSA started confiscating like more than 3 ounces of liquid, he had his character going through the security line saying, wait a minute, my battery in my laptop is far more destructive than anything I could bring in 3 ounces.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Within a year, that became a thing for
Don't
the TSA.
say it.
Yeah.
Don't
I mean,
say
coming
it.
back to...
A guy tries to light his shoes on fire, suddenly we all have to take off our shoes.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to what you were saying about radiation. He has a wonderful essay where it's just like he looked at how close could you get to the fuel rods in a nuclear reactor before you got a lethal dose of radiation. And because the fuel rods are kept underwater. You're actually getting less radiation as you swim down to them than you would be if you're on the surface getting it from the sun. He did point out at the end of it that the health risks were slightly more complicated than that because you would be riddled with several bullets before you could actually get down into the thing. But,
in this new book, he talks about how to predict the weather by analyzing the pixels of your Facebook photos, how to tell if you're a baby boomer or a 90s kid by measuring the radioactivity of your teeth, and tips for taking a selfie with a telescope, plus how to cross a river by boiling it. Randall Munroe will be on Triangulation Friday.
I would love to spend a couple of hours in that guy's mind.
Can't wait. 11:30 a.m.
That sounds fun.
His first book was
Pacific.
so good.
Yeah.
His book, What If? Tremendous.
He also gave a very good talk that's on YouTube. He was he's invited down to speak to Google, because, they do these lectures for staff. Fascinating lecture, very, very funny indeed. And he reveals which cartoon it was that caused a strange woman to just come up to him and hug him spontaneously.
All of them.
Wow.
Really good.
He does. I mean, he did
Everyone's
get
got
some...
a favorite XKCD comic.
Yeah.
It's rare that we'll have a conversation about anything from passwords to radiation.
There's not an XKCD
to
somewhere.
little Bobby drop tables. And somebody won't,
That's my favorite, by the way. That is my
sanitize
favorite.
your inputs. Somebody won't post an XKCD.
By the way, someone did that. Did you see that story of the guy who changed his name to Null?
No, license
Plate. The license
License
plate's
plates
a
are
null.
null, and yes, he got
all-
8,000's worth of tickets.
So he wanted to, I think he was looking for another nice license plate, null something else. And as he entered it in, it truncated it and submitted
He
null.
wanted dev null.
So he said, something like that. I would love dev null, by the way. So he submitted it. And it turns out that if a law enforcement officer writes a ticket and neglects to put the license plate in,
Null.
The software puts null in the ticket, which means he's been getting tickets from all over the country.
He's got over $8,000 worth of fines for this. It's just
doing a joke. You put a big target on his back.
Yep.
$12,000 or 12,000 tickets. $12,000 in traffic fines incorrectly. Can you imagine trying to work your way out of that? That was a recent DEF CON talk he talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great joke. I don't know if I would be that committed to the bit. Like the first time I received a bill, I'd be like, no.
I don't think he did it on purpose. And I think once it happened, it was at
but now
kept
he's
it
saying,
going?
but I didn't do anything wrong, so they should fix their system.
Yeah,
I'm
good
like,
luck.
yeah.
Good luck
with that.
Just ask little Bobby Drop Tables how that went.
That's why you sanitize your inputs.
Sanitize your inputs. Actually, the Chicago Tribune did a really interesting piece where they did the same kind of testing the Federal Communications Commission does to cell phones. They found that the iPhone 7 is significantly above the standards set by the FCC, more than double what Apple reported to federal regulators, and very dangerous. Now, they only tested 3 iPhone 7s. I suppose it's possible, given their age, that they could be more dangerous. Maybe they've been dropped, or maybe the cases are warped. It is not as thorough a test maybe as the FCC does, but I think it's interesting the Chicago Tribune kind of took this on. And the results are really kind of shocking.
It's also kind of annoying that they actually felt the need that they had to, and we couldn't trust the FCC to do this properly, because it sounds like they've been asleep at the switch again.
You know, I've been to the FCC testing center in Washington, D.C. They have a human-shaped mannequin filled with a solution that is made of a variety of materials like sugar and salt to duplicate the transmission absorption and transmission qualities of human flesh. And then they have a robotic arm. And by the way, this is exactly what the Tribune did. They have a robotic arm which then positions the smartphone all around that. And then they measure internally, they measure how much is received through the medium.
Well, I think so. They're testing EIRP, the effective emitted radiation, and that falls under Certificate 47 at the FCC.
Oh yes, of course.
Which they
he knew that off the top of his head. That's
because
amazing.
we covered this. We covered this on Twiat a while back. They actually trust the numbers from the manufacturers. They're supposed to eventually test it, but years back they started fast tracking it because they were getting way more devices
too many machines to test,
than they could test. So eventually they could get to it and decertify, but they don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
Which was the car company that lied about the diesel tests?
VW.
I mean, I think that just shows you the flaw in that system.
Yeah,
well,
it's the same thing.
look at Boeing with the 737
Actually,
MAX. They were allowed to test their own.
VW didn't lie. They modified their software to notice when they were on one of those machines and change their mix so that it would be a lower emissions vehicle. That's much worse than lying.
It's a deliberate.
That's intent. That's some serious intent.
It's interesting to see how that was viewed over here and in Europe, because I've got some friends in the car industry back in the UK, and they were saying, yeah, but I kind of understand why they did it. Because diesel emission standards are set ludicrously high in this country, higher than some European countries, because the auto industry doesn't make diesels and doesn't want the competition. So they are set very high indeed. And
so
that's
they felt
why
justified because it was
basically, I mean, obviously it was
anti-European regulation.
Except diesel has something that gas cars don't do, which is a high level of particulates. Particulates is what we don't want. I mean, you go to Europe, to diesel countries, and it's everywhere.
Yeah,
I get
soot.
If I leave my window open, I get a nice little covering of soot and everything.
Yeah.
Like
it. Yeah. Electric. Everybody should just drive EVs. I love my EV.
Can't do long road trips on them though. That's the problem.
Sure, you can. In fact, weirdly enough, one of the side effects of Dieselgate is that Audi has made a $2 billion settlement to build $2 billion worth of electrical charging stations across the United States.
Well, that's nice.
It's called Electrify America. They're fast chargers. They will work with any CCS vehicle. Our Chevy Bolt will use it.
Okay.
And so there will be a significantly larger number of chargers all over the country, thanks to Dieselgate.
There you go. See, it's a net benefit.
It's a net win.
You can make it from San Francisco to Las Vegas. They put superchargers in Baker and in...
Although, let's face it, why would you want to go to Las
Five.
Vegas?
Yeah, on the 5 at Harris Ranch.
Exactly, yeah. So you could charge 30 minutes at Harris Ranch and 30 minutes at Baker and make it all the way
The
to
Tesla
Vegas.
at least was great because it would say, okay, you're going to stop here, have lunch,
Right.
you got 30 minutes there. And they wouldn't even try to charge you up all the way, just enough so that you could get to the next one and the next one. So it was actually a pretty easy system. Anyway, enough said. We're going to talk about maybe the worst IPO
We've been looking forward to
Alex
this
is
one all
sharpening his
session.
teeth.
We got our financial guy here. We got to talk about that. And then an Instagram privacy hoax that you should not fall for coming up. But first, a word from Cashfly. Cashfly literally brings you this show every week. When you download any of our shows, you're not downloading it from our website. You're downloading it from our content delivery network, Cashfly. And why do we do that? Well, because Cashfly has servers all over the world, hundreds of them. So you're going to download it from somewhere that's nearer to you than our server. Plus, it's a CDN, so it's designed to do exactly that. 30% faster than the competition, and it never goes down. It's literally a 100% SLA because they have so many servers, even if one or two went down, twit must roll. You will always get your twit. People have told me many times, one of the reasons I don't subscribe or don't listen to a podcast is because it took too long to get it, but it never takes too long to get twit. It's not just podcasts. Any kind of content that you're delivering, from applications to content to data, you should be using a CDN. And I think you should be using Cashfly. We've been on Cashfly for 10 years. It delivers rich media content 10 times faster than if you were getting it from our website, 30% faster than other big-name CDNs, with 100% SLA. You're going to get the best user experience for your customers and the best experience for you because you don't have to – they work out a price based on your yearly usage. So you're not logging in every week. We have very spiky downloads. I don't have to log in every week to see, oh, gosh, did we go over our monthly bandwidth limit? Because it's a year. It's a year. And they smooths out all those peaks. We literally deliver through Cashfly petabytes of data every month to you, our fabulous listeners, and I am so grateful to Cashfly. I think you will be too. No billing spikes. You'll save more than 20% on average, and you'll never be down. It's not just us. Ars Technica uses Cashfly. LG uses Cashfly. Microsoft and Adobe, yes, they use Cashfly. Right now, you can get a complimentary detailed analysis of your current CDN bill and usage trends to see how much you could save if you went to Cashfly. No heavy selling, no push, just the information you need to make the right decision. Here's what you do. Go to twit.cashfly.com. twit.cashfly.com. Thank you, Cashfly. It's been a decade-long relationship, and it's never going to end because as long as we can get you the content better, we will. Cashfly. twit.cashfly.com.
Cashfly was actually a Dignation sponsor way back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when I first heard of them.
Yeah,
back
that's
when,
right.
Good Lord. That's
So
going
Matt
back.
Levine, who founded Cashfly, we were in the early days of Twit. I was using BitTorrent.
Oh,
I would
man.
ask listeners, "Can you please seed it? If anybody wants
I
to
remember
seed
that,
it,
yeah.
remember that? We had a Drupal site. You would get it directly from that. Then I got the bill. It was just it was a nightmare. And Matt Levine heard me whining about it, and he said, "Look, come to Cashfly." He was the founder of Cashfly. I think Dignation, same thing. So come to Cashfly, and that really saved our life. Twit wouldn't exist without Cashfly. I'm very grateful to them. So, 2 articles about a new tech IPO, WeWork.
Best company ever.
I have to say I'm a little bit of a fan of Scott Calloway's post. He calls it not WeWork, but WTF. He's a professor of business at the Stern School at NYU. And I asked Jeff Jarvis, because I thought, well, Jeff said, it's too much showbiz. But, because yes, there's cartoons, there's jokes. He really mocks them. But he brings up the kind of the important point. And Alex, I'll defer to you a little bit on this. There are a lot of red flags, including the fact that the founder sold $700 million in stock before the public.
Scroll down a little bit more. Pause
Yeah.
there.
But this is the graph Scott puts in
Say
there.
some red flags. The entire report
Yeah.
was scarlet painted.
But apparently analysts call this a duration problem or a duration mismatch. What's that?
So if you sign a long-term lease,
And WeWorks are as long as 15 years for their properties.
they have dozens of billions of dollars of long-term lease commitments that they are on the hook for.
no matter what.
No matter what. But if you go to a WeWork and sign up for a month or 6 months, you are on a short-term lease thing. So in a sense, WeWork is a bit of arbitrage between lease timings and their ability to kind of drive margin on their shorter-term leases to make money against their long-term cost commitments that they paid to the buildings. Everyone was really curious about kind of a couple things about this. One, how much money were they losing? So everyone knew they were going to lose a lot of money. But really what became more fascinating was that chart that I had you pause at, which showed the company's revenue from membership and services. And then the second column there is the location operating expenses. Now, this is a similar metric to what's called cost of revenue. And if you're not a financial person, you have revenue, cost of revenue, and then gross profit. You want to have a really low cost of revenue and a really high gross profit.
That's margin.
This is margin. This is why software revenue is so valuable, because it has very, very high margins. If you look at the two graphs on that chart, they're really close together, which means there's not a lot of gross profit, which means there's not a lot of actual margin in the business. And Leo, you said at the top of the show, tech IPO. Tech IPOs have high margins. This company does not.
So they're competing in a bad space. They're really a real estate company.
They're a really bad real estate
We should
company.
mention that what WeWork does, in case you don't know, there's a WeWork everywhere, is they rent office space. And in theory, one of the reasons people are bullish about this is, in theory, as the recession hits, companies are going to not want to have, like we do, an expensive studio. Right. They're going to want to rent office space by the day, the month, the hour. And so they'll do well. But that's the problem, is that they're not exactly recession-proof because they've got a fixed costs and
they signed all those long-term leases, so their costs aren't going to drop as the cost of real estate goes down.
So there's also the problem that, for instance, they sold the We trademark to themselves for $5.9 million.
Well, the CEO, I believe,
That's
leases
a crazy
access
story.
to the company for the trademark that he owns. In the old days of Silicon Valley, and by that I mean anything other than 5 years ago, there was an idea of aligned incentives and not taking money off the table and making sure the company's interests were the same as the founders. And there seems to be a lot of contradictory financial chicanery in this S1 filing that is nigh shocking to someone who spends a lot of time reading these kind of on the regular.
But I do have to point out that, so this is kind of an inflammatory piece by Scott Galloway.
Yes.
But funny as heck.
Funny as heck.
Really enjoyed reading it.
I loved it.
And by the way, once you read that, then go on, because he's not limiting himself just to WeWork. He has pieces about, he's just like crazy about Netflix and everything else. But then Ben Thomson weighs in, who is a little bit more measured.
Yes.
Stratechery, and I think a very smart guy. I don't think Scott's any less smart, but one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting, Ben did point out that Amazon has kind of done the same thing. You invest and you turn the profit knob down so that you can do more capital investment. So he says there is a bull case for WeWork in, like AWS.
I think this is an overly generous analogy.
I think he's being very generous.
I think that AWS has shown, even from a much younger age, an ability to generate operating profit, which is a key profit driver at Amazon corporate itself. And as much as I absolutely love Ben, and I've read Stratechery forever, I think he's being a bit too polite to the company's case.
He also points out that WeWork is completely willing and very likely to skip out on those leases because they've created separate LLCs for each lease. So there's really no real liability to them to skip out.
But again, this comes back to the slightly
Which
dodgy...
is, by the way, dodgy as hell.
Yeah, well, this is the same... The CEO has sold off some of his shares to buy buildings, which he then leases back to WeWork.
Yep.
This is a shell game, which is sooner or later somebody's going to be left up holding them. And I speak as a WeWork customer. We are in the WeWork offices in San Francisco.
Are you really?
Yeah. Oh. And they are basically just an office leasing firm with some glittery bits.
It's not a tech
with
stock.
some glitter on. No,
remember,
not at all. I mean,
remember that over the course of the leases that WeWork currently has signed, the officers, which includes the CEO, are going to be paid $110 million.
Yeah.
So the CEO of the company is a landlord to the company. So he gets paid no matter what.
Yeah.
So if you're investing in this IPO, they're trying to make it seem as if you're investing in, all this real estate. The real estate is leased, and those lessees are going to get their money no matter what.
Yeah.
That's what are you investing in?
So both Ben and Scott come up with the same final conclusion, which is you probably shouldn't buy this
Oh, I
stock.
wouldn't go near
One
it.
more forcefully than others.
got
But do
more
you
re-
short it? You can't short this.
It's going to be very expensive to short. It's going to be in very high demand. But just to give you a kind of a sense of the scale of the unprofitability of this company, in the first half of 2019, they had revenue of $1.54 billion, give or take. They had location operating expenses of 1.23. So that means the cost of running all those buildings was nearly their entire revenue. But they had expenses of a total of $2.9 billion. So their operating loss in just 6 months was nearly $1.4 billion.
How much money has Uber made over the last 5-10 years?
Negative cajillion.
How much money has Uber lost, I should say?
Many
That's why there
dollars.
should be a merger between WeWork and Uber.
Isn't Uber
We
still considered by many a good investment?
No.
No. It's a shell game. As soon as they run
very
out of cash
similar.
to burn, then we were talking about this on the way up. Look, Uber has never made a profit. Uber will never make a profit unless autonomous vehicles go on the road. And at some point, the money is going to run out. And it's a question of, can you find someone stupid enough to chuck another 10 billion and kick the can down the road?
Both WeWork and Uber have found people stupid enough to
That's-
throw money into
But
it.
there's a distinction now that really matters between the two companies. WeWork is still growing like heck. I mean, it grew over about 100% from 2018 to 2019. That's insane growth at the scale of revenue they're doing.
Right.
Uber's growth has decelerated dramatically, so their losses are much more unpalatable to investors. If you grow fast, you can lose money. Uber is
Can
very
you
unprofitable.
outgrow revenue loss?
The idea is that over time, the percentage of revenue you lose goes down, and then investors become more kind of okay with it.
Right.
But Uber's losses have stayed relatively sharp.
Yeah.
About $1.25 billion.
Ultimately, investors are looking at your prospects, your long-term prospects. You're going to, if you don't ever make money, no investor's ever going to be happy.
Well, the passing round, it's sort of it's a game of pass the parcel, and sooner or later, someone's going to end up and find out there's. I can't say what's going to be in there, but I mean it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I
There
mean,
are
at the
some
end, you have to-
VCs in San Francisco who are still bullish on Uber, but they tend to be the VCs who are heavily invested.
Who have Uber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the lockup period doesn't last forever. They can also exit the trade if they so desire at some point in time.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great companies going public. It's been a lot of fun to watch. I think if you want to mess with your mind, go read the WeWork S1 and then write down the bull case and the bear case. You can do both pretty easily because there's so much there. You can. It's kind of like a Rorschach test or an inkblot test for like the fintech world. It's fun to watch.
Can I read a section from their IPO filing? Please. It's my favorite part.
Our story.
Our story. We are a community company committed to maximum global impact. Our mission is to elevate the world's consciousness. We have built a worldwide platform that supports growth, shared experiences, and true success.
Yes!
What the hell do they do?
Bruh, it's synergy. Also, here's the best part.
See, working in these offices, this is exactly the kind of you have to put up with it.
You can't swear on Twit.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, listen.
You have to put up with every day. There's like the way it works is there's like a communal meeting area on the ground floor, and then there's tightly stacked glass offices going up. But it's like every day they'll be like, oh, so-and-so wants to come and pitch you about this, and come down and try a delicious quinoa smoothies. And it's they're trying.
It is a dessert.
Well, I mean, when we first moved in, we were kind of like, hang on, they've got free beer on tap. they're taking British journalists in on a lease for this. We're going to have some
Talk
fun.
about operating margin.
And within a month, those pumps get locked up at 6 o'clock every night.
I've heard there's more cost cutting at individual WeWorks like that, and that's how they're going to drive a bit more margin and hopefully make the math a bit more clean.
But it's also Lord of the Flies in there. I mean, seriously, if one of our guys put a bad review on Yelp and came of the WeWork office, and one of the WeWork staffers came and pleaded with him to take it down because otherwise there is a risk that they'd all get fired. It's a really weird company, and I don't like how it treats its staff, and I don't like what investors are going to be given.
Well, you're right there. You're on the
I'm probably going to be getting thumbtacks on my seat tomorrow for this. But, you know,
The quote that you read though. They meant that.
Yeah.
That's the start of the document. They're like, welcome to WeWork. This is our first salvo, and they paid a lot of money for those words. And then they
I'm
published
sure they
them.
did. But I mean, come on, look, it contains consciousness, platform, growth, experiences, and success. How much better can it really get?
Sounds good to me.
But if you
I'll
keep
take,
reading, it gets better.
It does.
I'll take $1,000 worth. Pokemon Go becomes Pokemon No, writes Kieran McCarthy.
Ah, yes. Kieran pulled off a good one there.
As GamesBiz Niantic agrees to curb trespassing addicts. Pokemon Go has been around for 3 years. The problem is that it is a real-world adventure, which I have played for a long time. I love, and you end up going out in the real world trying to find Pokemon, Pokestops, Pokegyms. Unfortunately, many of these things are in people's private property.
Yeah.
One owner of an oceanfront condo, writes Kieran, in Florida, was confused and infuriated when hundreds of players, quote, acting like zombies, walking around bumping into things, appeared on his property at all hours of the day or night. Another complaint, he had 5 different people ring his doorbell and ask to be allowed into his backyard to catch Pokemon.
Seriously, who does this? Particularly in Florida, where you're likely to get shot if you knock on the wrong door. You know?
So 12 people brought a class action suit. The class was approved through the Northern California Federal Court. The case has been settled. Niantic has agreed to pay $4 million to settle the case. That's $1,000 for the 12 people.
And the lawyers get
and
the rest.
millions for the lawyers. The judge decided the requested $2,500 per person was way too high. But Pokemon, the Pokemon folks, Niantic, have agreed that there will be a way to remove a Pokestop if it's next to a single-family house. They say they'll get it removed within 15 days. There's going to be a new website where you can say, hey, I don't want a Pokestop by my house. I've met people playing Pokemon Go. I met one guy, a store owner, said, yeah, I hate it because people just congregate in my parking lot, but they never buy anything. And he said, I don't understand what's going on. I said, well, it's a gym, and they're attacking the gym. It will also add warnings to the game to tell players, be aware of your surroundings. And will, in public parks, close down. They solved this a little bit with their follow-up, the Wizards Unite, the Harry Potter follow-up, because a lot of the Pokestops on private property, there are in malls and there's and so forth, close when the store that it's attached to closes, which was the first time that happened. It was a shock to me. I'm walking around and all of a sudden all of these places are closing and you can't play the game.
They inherited this problem from their previous game.
You were a big Ingress player.
Right. So Niantic was Ingress, and that's actually where they populated all the
of these
Pokestops.
Points of interest come from Ingress.
Precisely. And in Ingress, that was actually a very common tactic. Like, there was a portal off the coast of California, so you had to take a boat to go get it, it was super highly priced, because if you got that stop, you could make a link like across the Pacific Ocean that could not be broken because no one could get to the portal.
Get in the boat.
Right. So, I mean, you can't get rid of that. That's part of human nature. They're always going to be looking to push the rules a little bit to gain an advantage. Yeah. So how do you fix that? You can have a process to remove portals, but people are still going to submit them.
Is the Harry Potter game out?
Yes.
Is it good?
Yes. Well...
Oh, wow.
There's very mixed crowd reaction.
I liked it at first, and I actually kind of stopped playing it because it doesn't go anywhere.
Who are the Pokemon players here? Oh, really? Who are the Harry Potter players?
Oh, see, that went down.
Yeah.
Ingress? Okay.
Old school.
He's wearing a NASA T-shirt, so that'll tell you
So
something.
he's Resistance.
Yeah. Are you Resistance? He is. Wow. I played Pokemon Go for 3 years, got to the highest level 40, and that was my goal, and I stopped. And because I was getting ready for Harry Potter. When it came out, I played it assiduously. I played it hard for a long time, but I feel like, okay, I got it. I feel like it's grinding at this point.
I stopped playing the location games because they're all the same now.
Yeah, they really are. I think maybe Pokemon Go kind of used it up.
The lack of a good Harry Potter RPG or RTS is a crime. So much good IP out there.
You know, we just got the Oculus Quest, and there's some really fun games, including a Darth Vader game that's fun. You really get to, And I would love to see a Harry Potter game. That would be a really fun VR game.
So much potential there.
Yeah.
I don't know. As a Brit who went to a boarding school, I'm always very off Harry Potter.
You don't like the Harry? You went to Hogwarts, for crying out loud.
Okay, it's that's the main one. It's so unrealistic. A redheaded bloke at a public school with two friends. That's never going to happen.
Harry.
I've seen there's a class system in the UK.
Oh, who'd have thought it?
So here's our public service announcement. Do not fall for the post. It keeps coming back every few years. It's been
It used to be
around.
on Facebook a couple of years ago.
Yeah, 2016 on Facebook. saying, the meme is Facebook or Instagram, depending on who's posted it, are about to make their rule changes, in which case they will own all your photos. Remember this?
Didn't the former governor of Texas fall for this?
So this is the funny thing. It's going around again. Julia Roberts, Deborah Messing, Usher, and Julianne Moore have all posted Tara G.P. Henson, Beyonce's mom, and Waka Flocka Flame. I called him Waka Waka. I call him Waka Waka. I call him. Is it Waka Flame?
Waka Flocka Flame.
It's a Waka Flocka Flame.
Yeah.
That's hard to say. It should
very
be
good artists. They've played with Grizz. They've played with Big Gigantic, mostly at music festivals that imbibe certain herbal substances.
So Waka Flocka Flame all have posted this, but the latest one is, and I love the BuzzFeed News headline, the man in charge of our nuclear weapon program, the former governor of Texas, and he's the Department of Energy director, has posted the same thing.
I mean, are we really surprised? This is Rick Perry we're talking about. This is when he was running for president, he couldn't remember the names of the departments that he wanted to get rid of.
One of which was the Department of Energy.
Yeah, exactly. So
the man has no shame and apparently no brains.
Yeah.
He posted on his Instagram, Instagram does not have my permission to share photos or messages.
I replied to him and I told him that Microsoft also wants to give him money. All he has to do is
remember that one? Bill Gates wants to give you money.
Yeah.
I guess he's a grandpa.
He's a few flying buttresses short of a full cathedral, certainly. But I mean, it's just like,
whoa! Wait, what? Sorry, repeat that.
He's a
that was amazing.
Flying
buttresses
of a falling
short of a full cathedral.
That's the cultured way of saying a few noodles short of a casserole.
Right.
That's a much more Midwestern way of saying it. Thank you.
My parents are from Kansas City.
Yeah, no.
This is great.
There's a few noodles short.
But yeah, he's not the smartest tool out there, so it's just
so a public service. Don't be like Beyonce's mom and the Department of head of the.
If you're
Department
using Facebook or using Instagram, they own everything.
Right.
Just stop worrying about it.
And it's certainly not going to do any good to post.
No,
I do not give permission.
Look, here's the thing. It's not even well printed out. It's not like it looks like a legal document. It looks like a 9-year-old scrawled with a Crayola.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a crayon, because we don't do brand names anymore for the Velcro incident. But it's like someone did a crumpled up little paper and then uncrumpled it and then put it on Instagram. Like, in what universe is that legally binding? And does Instagram have to keep a tally of whom and whom has not done that?
It's almost like a EULA.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now formally call this show dead.
Wait, do you hereby order it dead?
I hereby order that we will now disassemble. But thank you so much for being here today. What fun this has been.
This has been one of the best ones, I think.
This show is not a few flying buttresses short of a full cathedral by any means. We had every buttress we needed. Buttress number 1, Mr. Alex Wilhelm Scream from Crunchbase News, where he's editor-in-chief and founder, too, right? You put it all together. So
I was the first person on the news team,
Yeah. Great to have you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Give my love to Liza.
I feel like I've been on Twitter for like all of this relationship. Like I came on,
you
we
have.
got together and we got engaged, and now
you have.
Now
you'll be living in my childhood home.
I just spent a whole month there.
What? Wait, what?
Oh, no, that's a long time.
This is the weirdest thing you ever heard of in my life.
It sounds creepy, but it's kind of sweet.
He brings Liza to the new Screensavers where he's hosting. I meet her, the girlfriend, for the first time, and she's from Providence, where I grew up. I said, "Oh, that's great." She said, "Yeah, I live there, and I'm going to go to med school there. I'm doing my residency at
med school Tulane, residency back in Providence.
Residency in Providence, and at Brown, right?" And I said, "Oh, that's neat." She said, "Where'd you live?" I said, "Oh, on." I told her the street name. I won't say it now, because that's where Alex is, and we know he has stalkers. But I told her the street. She said, "Oh, I live on that street. What number?" And I told her the number. She said, "That's my house." So I was in the bedroom, and you go up the back stairs. At the top of the back stairs, that bedroom there. Who's sleeping there?
That will be future child number 3.
I lived in the nursery.
Is this the place with all the trees that you had to trim as a kid?
No, that was later. That was in Santa Cruz. This is the place where I discovered girls. So be very careful.
That's something you didn't want to know.
Go home and break out the window.
Actually, that's maybe overstating it.
Just don't use a black light in there, okay?
Oh, no. Family-friendly show here.
Anyway, now it seems a little creepy if I say love to you and Liza. So just best wishes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. That's a good story, but I will just say, if I do get to have kids, it will be some irony if I come back on the show and there's like a new Leo generation coming out.
You got to name him Leo if you put him in my old bedroom.
I promise you not do that.
No, it's so great. And actually, you fixed up the house quite nicely. It was an old house. It was built in 1806,
yes,
which my mom and dad got for a song because at the time, that was a terrible neighborhood, and the house was gutted. It was empty. So the Providence Restoration Society was finding these houses, buying them, and selling them to people who committed to fixing them up. Yep. So we fixed it up in the style that it had been built in 1806 with everything. And it was my mom's, pride and joy, or crowning
and we
achievement.
Changed a lot of it. But
yeah, which is why I don't know if I want to see it, because my mom's still in the area. She says she's got to come over for tea
sometime. When you eventually make it out,
I think you fixed it up.
I will cook for you.
That'll make it all better. Iain Thomson, the register.co.uk. He's a news editor there, and it's always a pleasure to have you on.
No, it's always good fun to pop up to Petaluma, and as long as you're not having your egg and butter festival or whatever it is.
Butter and eggs.
That's it.
That's in March or April. Stay away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what was the other one? American Days? Or no?
American Graffiti Days.
Yes.
We also do that because
awesome.
American Graffiti was filmed downtown. That seminal. I probably shouldn't say the word seminal. That scene.
We just keep going to that black light.
That scene.
Banging that door.
Currently paying tax on that house.
You've heard about spiritual resonance,
That scene where they creep up behind the cop car and they put a hook on the axle, and then they speed by it, and the cop car speeds after them and pulls the axle out. That was shot downtown next to the Mystic Theater in an empty lot.
And they recreate it
every year.
It's fun.
In the middle of the night, too, because it's like 3 a.m. when that happens in the movies.
I love watching all the cars that come down. All the classic cars that come in the Petaluma.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
If you don't know what they're talking about, the movie came out in 1973.
You weren't even born then.
I was negative 16.
Yeah.
Starring dead people.
Harrison Ford.
You never saw American Graffiti?
I don't think
Star
so.
of
Harrison
Happy
Ford.
Days, became a great director.
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard's the kid, but Harrison Ford's the bad guy,
Yeah,
the
Harrison
Fonzie
Ford's
of the
in it.
movie.
That was one of Harrison Ford's first films.
And a young blonde named Suzanne Summers in a very minor part.
What part did she have?
She was the blonde driving the Thunderbird slowly by.
I totally didn't
Who
recognize
is
her.
she?
Richard Dreyfuss was in American Graffiti.
He's great in it, too. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, I think you and Liza should sit down and watch
Second
it.
best movie made
Try
in
not to
Petaluma.
watch it in that bedroom at the top of the stairs.
No,
I'm just saying.
The second best movie?
First best movie made in Petaluma was Explorers.
What? I don't even know that
Explorers, a great sci-fi film from the
What?
80s. You have to look it up. The chat room knows all about it.
Oh,
Great sci-fi
They take
film
an
from
old
the 80s.
they take an
That's a
old
very
amusement
small
park
pool.
ride and they turn it into a spacecraft.
Oh.
And it had Joaquin Phoenix. No, River Phoenix. It had River Phoenix and two unknowns.
Oh, wow.
That is Father Robert Ballecer, film expert. He is the digital Jesuit. And
In
when do you
Rome-
go back to Rome?
September 3rd.
Oh, you got a little more time here.
And there they call me the Flying Buttress Head.
That's the unshortened version.
That's right. Official title.
We do Twit every Sunday afternoon, about 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. That's 21:30 UTC or 22:30, 21:30 UTC. If you want to watch live, that's the only reason you need to know the exact time. You can do that at twit.tv/live audio and video there. You can ask your Amazon Echo. Listen to Twit live and it will start playing. So that's the easy way to do that. If you're participating live, please join the chat room. That's kind of the interactive portion of the show, and they're great. Some of our best lines today came from the chat room. irc.twit.tv. P.S. Chop says the title should be Who You Calling a Buttress? And if you can't listen live or watch live, of course, it's a podcast, so it's on demand. All you have to do is go to twit.tv, our website. You can find every episode, all 733 episodes of This Week in Tech, as well as every other show we do. But the best thing to do is see those buttons at the bottom of the page there. You click Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, even YouTube. You can subscribe in that way. You don't have to think about it. You'll just have it first thing in the morning Monday as you head to work. If you want to be in the studio audience, we had a great one today. Most of them here for the VMware conference, which kicks off in San Francisco.
Enterprise people.
Enterprise. Just email tickets@twit.tv. We'd love to have you in studio. Was it worth it? Was it fun? I know it's long, and we give you the most uncomfortable chairs we can find, but it was okay. Huh? All right. Not quite a VMware keynote, but almost, right? We thank you all for being here, and we invite you back next week. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.
Doing the twit. All right. Doing the twit, baby. Doing the twit. All right. Doing the twit, baby.
We're getting positive tweet reviews of the show, guys, which is like rare. So
Wait, give it some time.
It's not that
Give it
rare,
some time.
mate.
The outrage will start
the
at some point.
The last tweet that I was on was the first time on YouTube. I read the comments. It was the first time people haven't been like, "Oh God, Alex is on. I'm not going to watch." Like, finally,
You're
I've broken
great.
through.
You are
It's taken
great.
years of being on the show and being disliked.
We used to be kind of a dick.
Show title. That's a show title.
I mean, you're not wrong. It just hurts to hear you say it.
No, you know what? I've always loved you from the very first time you were on.
Right.
I thought this, and that's why you keep coming back. We keep booking you. We don't book people we don't want.
Karsten's very patient.